Chapter 2651. Suyu walked in front, looking toward the northern starry sky. "Do you know what kind of people can live the longest?" he asked. Fei Yunxiang pondered for a long time before affirming, "The strongest. Only those who were at the peak of strength could survive until the end." But Suyu shook his head. "No." Fei Yunxing frowned. "Then what kind of people are they?" Survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest. This was a world where only the strongest could stand at the pinnacle and survive until the end. They're the most formless people. The most formless? Fei Yunxing did not understand what Suyu was referring to. The strongest are the strongest, but they're the easiest to attack and the easiest to fall. On the other hand, the formless hide in the dark, accumulating their strength. When the world is about to fall, they will emerge and ascend to the throne. At this point, how could Fei Yunxiang not understand? Suyu's intention was for Nanming City to continue hiding and bide its time, presenting itself as the weakest of the four cities, and to use Dongming City as bait. When the chaos was about to subside, Nanming City would appear again, defeating all the descendants of the rulers. Hearing this, Fei Yunxiang could not help but stare at Suyu, secretly shocked. How simple was Suyu's plan? Anyone would have understood. However, his vision, and schemes that overlooked the overall situation caused others to feel as if they were facing an abyss and felt extremely uneasy. From the start, Dongming City had been a chess piece in Suyu's hands. No matter how nice his words were to the mindful emperor's face, he actually had his own plans and plans. Emperor Mingxin is not a bad person. I feel guilty for using him like this. Suyu sighed. Fei Yunxiang did not agree, saying, "Mr. Su is too kind. You filter too much." With Emperor Mingxin's abilities, without the ruler's treasures, he would have been annihilated if he went against Shiming City or even Baiming City. Mr. Su, if you gave him 4 rulers' treasures, he would have had the right to fight. Furthermore, Mr. Su, you helped him get rid of the 3 great threats. Emperor Mingxin would be grateful to you. Even if he knew you were using him, he would be willing to follow your orders. Suyu slowly nodded. Just as he was about to enter the house to rest, the communication technique beside him activated. As Suyu scanned it, his expression changed slightly. "Lord Su, it seems to be a happy occasion?" Fei Yunxing asked. Suyu nodded. "Yes, it's a joyous occasion. A letter from Yinran." Xiao Hao agreed, then gave Suyu the magical treasure that could speed up time by 10,000 times. But the prerequisite was that he had to help him get rid of someone. This person was the Waning Moon Empress' most trusted aide. He and Yinran had the same identity, a member of the Time Domain's Upper Palace branch. His name was the Soul Summoning Scholar. Fei Yunxiang swept his gaze across the book, wanting to read its contents. So you put it away, seemingly unintentionally. It was better not to let Fei Yunxing know too much about some things. Soul Summoning Scholar? Suyu thought to himself. He remembered that when the Waning Moon Empress ambushed him, those messengers successfully disguised themselves as the Time Master's people. The biggest reason was that there was no hourglass above their heads. Besides, Suyu could not think of any other way to forge such a realistic image. On top of that, the Soul Summoning Scholar's name had the word soul in it. Suyu had more or less guessed his identity. He was a master of the soul path who had mastered the soul summoning domain, turning a thought into reality. Interesting, Suyu muttered to himself. The next 2 days might not be peaceful. Keep an eye out, Suyu said calmly. Not peaceful? When Jiao and the other 2 threats have been eradicated, how could there still be hidden dangers? At least, Fei Yunxiang could not see it. In the next few days, the alliance negotiations between Nanming City and Dongming City went smoothly. Both sides were magnanimous and did not argue too much about the details. "Mr. Su, we can officially sign the alliance agreement tomorrow. I hope we can work well together." Emperor Mingxin was in a good mood. Suyu nodded and cupped his fists in greeting. "Rest early tonight, Emperor. Tomorrow is the alliance signing ceremony," Suyu reminded him, patting his shoulder. Emperor Mingxin laughed. "Don't worry. The ceremony will definitely satisfy you, Mr. Su." He was in a good mood. Emperor Mingxin returned to his palace. In the palace, a young lady with a gentle expression walked over with a smile. Emperor, you are in a good mood today. Is it because the alliance signing went smoothly? Emperor Mingxin took off his cloak and smiled. Haha, rower, bring me some wine. Let's drink to our heart's content today. The Empress was full of smiles. She had not seen the Emperor so happy in a long time. For a long time, the Emperor had been frowning and working hard every day. He had not been so relaxed for many years. She immediately took out the Emperor's favorite Jade River wine and said, "This was prepared by Zijun. Have a taste." Emperor Mingxin's joyful expression turned to one of helplessness. How is Zijun now? He chased Zijun away from his side, still a little worried. The Empress said gently, "Don't blame yourself. Zijun knows she is at fault and does not blame you." Emperor Mingxin nodded. Zijun was the Empress' sister after all. He had promised to help her, but now he had chased her away. Hearing that he reflected on his mistakes, the Empress was relieved. As he thought to himself, he raised his cup and drank from it. Wanjiang J Cloud's wine is my favorite wine. Zijun is very thoughtful. The Empress smiled and poured a second cup for the Emperor. However, just as she was about to pour the cup, she suddenly realized that the Emperor's hand that was holding the cup was trembling violently. She looked up and let out a cry of surprise. That was because the mindful heart Emperor's body was currently engulfed in dark green flames, burning his entire body. Traces of pain condensed on the mindful Emperor's face. However, the mindful Emperor sat there motionlessly, not reacting in the slightest. "Emperor!" The Empress rushed forward and tried to put out the fire, but a hand grabbed her shoulder. "Sister, it's too late." The Empress turned around and saw Zijun. She looked at the Emperor with a complicated expression. There was regret, and helplessness in her eyes. "Zijun, put out the fire. Why are you pulling me?" The Empress tried to break free from Zijun's hand, but Zijun held her hand tightly, not letting go. The Empress finally realized that something was wrong. She stared at Zijun in disbelief. You put something in the wine, right?" Only two people could touch the Emperor's wine. One was her, and the other was her sister. The one who did it could only be her sister. "Zijun, you are crazy. How could you poison the Emperor?" The Empress screamed. Chapter 2652. Looking at the mindful heart great Emperor's shocked and confused eyes, Zijun lowered his head and said slowly, "Great Emperor, don't blame me. I had no choice." As she spoke, she took out a dagger. It was a gloomy and cryptic dagger that was filled with intense soul fluctuations. What are you going to do to me?" However, to Zijun's surprise, Emperor Mingxin, who was supposed to be unable to speak, suddenly spoke. The flames on his body were slowly extinguished. What happened? Zijun was surprised. What she had put in the wine was not a deadly poison. No one would dare to kill the descendant of the Time Master. That kind of poison would only paralyze Emperor Mingxin, rendering him unable to move. "Why did you betray me?" Emperor Mingxin stood up, his heart aching. He could ignore the betrayal of Wenjio and the other two. But Zijun was the sister of the Empress, a relative whom he regarded as his confidant. Why would she betray him? Zijun's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. She stepped forward and stabbed the dagger. The poison in Emperor Mingxin's body had not been completely removed, so he could not avoid it. "Time freeze." Emperor Mingxin's eyes were red as he shouted, "Put down the Empress." Time fluctuations radiated out immediately, but Zijun was obviously prepared for this. She crushed a jade pendant. A wave of time acceleration was released from it, counteracting the effect of time freeze. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Zijun carried the Empress and ran away. But halfway through, a light laugh was suddenly heard. No wonder Mr. Su said that something would happen in the next few days. "I didn't expect you to betray Emperor Mingxin." What a surprise. Fei Yunsheng was really impressed by Su Yu. He could foresee everything in the world. He did not see that the girl named Zijun was a traitor. But Su Yu not only saw it, but also guessed that this woman must have been up to no good. As expected, Zijun's face turned pale, but she was still calm. She opened her mouth and shouted, "Go." A wave of space fluctuations exploded from her chest, instantly swallowing her and the Empress. Fei Yunxiang did not chase after them, but smiled lightly. I feel that even your escape using the power of space might have been within Mr. Su's expectations. Zijun ran away. With a space teleportation, she escaped outside Dongming City. There was a pile of rubble. Zijun waved his sleeves and swept away the rubble. Only then could he see that there was a teleportation array that had been prepared for many years. He only needed to teleport away from the mindful Emperor's pursuit. She threw out a few time crystals and successfully activated them. Xiaochen looked around at the empty wilderness. After making sure that there was no one around, he heaved a sigh of relief and jumped up. A white light flashed, and he was teleported away without a hitch. She took a deep look at Dongming City and sighed, "Don't hate me." Then, with a flash of white light, he entered a long-distance teleportation. Ding! A soft sound rang out. This was the sound of the teleportation ending. So fast. Zijun was puzzled. This was a long-distance teleportation, which should take at least 2 hours. Why did he arrive in such a short time? She opened her eyes and found herself in a familiar courtyard. This was the place where he had lived for many years. How could he not know? Great Emperor's Palace? Zijun exclaimed in disbelief. The other end of the teleportation formation was clearly connected to the extremely distant Shiming City. How could he have returned to the Great Emperor's Palace? Suddenly, from the corner of Zijun's eyes, he saw a white figure leaning against the rockery with a faint smile on his face. Suyu? Zijun's heart skipped a beat. Suyu stood up and said, "Miss Zijun, where are you going?" Zijun stared at Suyu and coldly said, "What did you do?" Suyu shrugged. "I didn't do anything. I just slightly changed the destination of the transportation portal under the pile of rubble before you arrived." Suyu had suspected Zijun's identity a long time ago. He had arrived at the peak 2 days ago, so he had been paying attention to Zijun's actions. He had also seen her go to the rubble to check if the teleportation array was working properly. In passing, he had made some slight changes to the formation. "You bastard!" Zijun angrily shouted and slapped him. Her cultivation was not weak, but it was still a little weaker than Suyu's. So he did not dodge. He calmly said, "2 days ago, I should have warned you. If you offend me again, I won't just give you a slap." Pow! A gust of space energy suddenly exploded in front of Zijun. Zijun was careless and was blown away. His chest was badly mutilated. The Empress, who was on his shoulder, rolled down. She was not injured. Zijun's face was full of pain. "Suyu, you don't know anything. You don't understand how terrifying the waning moon Empress is. Anyone who goes against her will die." "Oh, is that the reason for your betrayal?" Suyu shook his head disappointedly. "I thought it was some kind of helpless reason. It turns out that it was just this." He had thought about the reason for Zijun's betrayal. Could it be that the Empress had something on him? Now it seemed that it was not the case. "So, you don't understand the waning moon Empress at all?" Zijun shouted angrily. Suyu calmly said, "I should know her better than you do. For example, if I let you go, you will not live to see tomorrow." Zijun looked incredulous. Suyu was going to let him go? However, Suyu walked forward, helped the Empress up, and left. He had no intention of paying attention to Zijun. Zijun was stunned. "Are you really going to let me go?" At that moment, the patrolling guards in the yard noticed the commotion and ran over. Zijun clenched her teeth and ran away immediately. She left in the middle of the night, heading straight for Shiming City. In the mindful Emperor's bedroom, Suyu returned the Empress to the mindful Emperor. After making sure that she was fine, the mindful Emperor's face finally showed a look of relief. However, his face was still filled with deep sorrow. Unknowingly, he had fallen to the point where he was deserted by everyone. Even his most trusted confidant had secretly betrayed him. Suyu patted the mindful Emperor's shoulder. A trace of the space domain was retracted without anyone noticing. It was the space domain that Suyu had secretly placed on top of the mindful Emperor. Its purpose was to dissolve the poison in the mindful Emperor's body. This was also the reason why the mindful Emperor was able to recover so quickly, even though he was clearly poisoned. It's a good thing that she was exposed. If we wait until later, It will be a bigger disaster, Suyu said. The mindful emperor clenched his fists. I just can't accept it. The waning moon empress is too arrogant. She even planted a spy among my confidants. Suyu smiled and said profoundly, Great, I'm going to meet the waning moon empress. Take care, great emperor. The mindful emperor lifted his eyes to look at Suyu. His pupils shrank. Suyu's body was slowly dissipating. Chapter 2653. Zijun traveled through several cities that night and used the space transportation portal many times. Finally, the next morning, she arrived at the border between Shiming City and Dongming City. Miss Zijun. Just as she arrived at the boundary stone at the border, a figure appeared. Lord Zhua. Zijun looked relieved. She had finally met someone. Looking at Zhuo Wei, who was as powerful as an Earthmaster, Zijun felt a sense of respect and trust in him. Because they were the same kind of people, traitors. Zijun was a traitor of Dongming City, and Zhuo Wei was a traitor of Nanming City. He used to be one of the 10 bodyguards of the Star Rain Empress. Miss Zijun, I'm glad you are fine. Zhuo Wei looked around and asked, Did you not save your sister? Zijun shook her head regretfully. Unfortunately, I met a troublesome guy who took my sister back. Zhuo Wei's face was full of disappointment. Dongming City is about to be destroyed. If your sister is not saved in time, she will be buried in the sea of fire along with Dongming City. Zijun said helplessly, It's all that guy's fault. My sister could not escape with me. She did not know that Zhuo Wei's eyes were filled with coldness. Why would the Shiming City care about Zijun and her sister? What they wanted was for Zijun to bring the Empress of Dongming City to Shiming City as a hostage. The mindful emperor had always been devoted to the Empress. If the Empress was taken as a hostage, would the mindful emperor not submit? Unfortunately, Zijun did not succeed. Forget it. I will ask the Empress to send a master to save your sister. Zhuo Wei comforted her. His eyes flashed as he asked, Then, did you bring back any useful information? Zijun nodded. Of course, she said cautiously, but I can only tell the Empress alone. In fact, she did not have any important information to bring back. Zijun was not around to discuss the alliance between Suyu and the mindful emperor. She did not know that Suyu had an infinite number of Dominator treasures. Haha, you worry too much. I was just asking. Zhuo Wei smiled and stepped aside. Let's go. I have prepared everything for you. Zijun took a deep breath to calm himself down. She had been undercover in Dongming City for many years and had secretly provided Dongming City with countless top-secret information. It could be said that he had worked hard and made countless contributions. No matter what, the waning moon empress would heavily reward him. She turned her head to look at Dong Mingqing behind her and slowly shook her head. Dong Mingqing, goodbye. My choice is not wrong. With that, he stepped into the territory of West Bright City. When he passed by Zhuo Wei, he suddenly put his hand on Zijun's shoulder. Zijun, look at this. Zijun subconsciously turned his head, but what he saw was a round bead that looked like a snake's eye. The moment he saw the bead, his eyes immediately glazed over and his body stiffened, unable to move. Zijun, what other important information do you have? Tell me now. Zhuo Wei's voice sounded mysterious. Zijun was deeply immersed in it. He could not help but answer honestly, No. Emperor Mindheart didn't even allow me to participate in the most important part of the negotiations. Did you bring anything important with you? Zijun shook his head. No. Emperor Mindheart has seen through my identity. Hearing this, Zhuo Wei's face gradually darkened, and he put away the bead in his palm. When Zijun woke up, he immediately shouted, What did you do to me just now? Zhuo Wei stood there and calmly said, Nothing. I just followed the waning moon empress order to see if you still have value. Zijun's heart skipped a beat. You search my soul? Yes. Zhuo Wei was very calm. Zijun forced himself to calm down. So what? I am loyal and devoted to the Empress, and have made countless contributions to the Empress. I have made contributions that no one can replace, and I have. Unfortunately, Zhuo Wei interrupted him impatiently. Stop, Zhuo Wei said lightly. The Empress said that she doesn't keep idle people. Zhuo Wei looked up with a trace of pity in his eyes. Now you have neither strength nor intelligence. If you go back to see the Empress, won't you make things difficult for her? Zijun suddenly felt a chill in her heart. She knew that the waning moon Empress wanted to get rid of her, because she was already worthless. They were both traitors. The reason why Zhuo Wei was put in an important position was that he was a pathmaster and had great value. But what value did Zijun have? Nothing. I still have the God's Eye talent. I can see very far away. I still have value. I want to see the Empress. Zijun backed away in fear. She wanted to find someone to rely on. But Dongming City was too far away, so far that she could never go back. I almost forgot that you still have the God's Eye talent. A cruel smile appeared on Zhuo Wei's face. The Empress said that you can take off your God's Eye and give it to someone who can use it better. No, you can't do this to me. Zijun said desperately. I betrayed my sister and brother-in-law, but in the end, you treat me like this. Aren't you afraid that other people will be disappointed? If this continued, who would dare to rely on the waning moon Empress? Zhuo Wei shrugged. I'm sorry, but we are not afraid. After all, no one will know if we kill you. Then, Zhuo Wei approached Zijun step by step. The powerful aura of an Earth Path Master made Zijun tremble. I'm sorry, Zijun. To be honest, I quite like your naive and stupid look. Zhuo Wei approached Zijun with a sinister smile. Shrill screams resounded in the deathly stillness of the border between the two worlds. Finally, the screams subsided and were completely extinguished. Zhuo Wei's palm was dripping with blood. He held a blood-stained eye that had been dug out. I can ask the Empress to bestow this to me. This is good stuff. Beneath his feet was the dead Zijun. With a flick of his finger, a ball of flame immediately burned Zijun's body, turning it into ashes. Zhuo Wei was about to leave when he suddenly realized that there was a vacuum in the ashes. Does she have some kind of treasure on her? Zhuo Wei waved his sleeves, sweeping away the dust on the ground to reveal what was hidden under the dust. But it was not a treasure. It was a space area the size of a palm. There was a person the size of a mosquito standing quietly with his hands behind his back. Zhuo Wei was surprised. He revolved his pupils and looked carefully. When he gradually saw the face of the mosquito, he subconsciously screamed, Suyu? How could he forget Suyu, whom the Empress Star Rain regarded as her brother? Suyu calmly said, Long time no see, Zhuo Wei. How are you doing with the waning moon Empress? The space area suddenly exploded, forcing Zhuo Wei back. Suyu's mosquito-sized body rapidly expanded, finally returning to his normal size. Chapter 2654. He was pleasantly surprised. Zhuo Wei was the confidant of the Star Rain Empress. Capturing him would be a great achievement. I am here to see the waning moon Empress. This is the only way. So he took out a jade seal. The jade seal had been activated. Zhuo Wei's face finally froze, and he took a step back. So let's mind our own business. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you have a magical treasure. A powerful magical treasure could not make up for the strength of an Earth Master. Suyu tossed it casually, and a bloody light shot out from the jade seal, enveloping Zhuo Wei. Zhuo Wei's body melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. Secret technique of the universe. Zhuo Wei bellowed, biting the tip of his tongue and spitting out a mouthful of the Earth Master's blood. That blood condensed into a defensive barrier in front of him, forcibly resisting the crimson light. Zhuo Wei's eyes were ferocious. I said one magical treasure is useless. Oh, then two it is. So you took out a female corpse wearing a bamboo hat. The latter's fair hand lightly pressed against Zhuo Wei's chest. Puff! The mighty force instantly pierced through Zhuo Wei's chest, annihilating him from his body to his soul. Zhuo Wei collapsed unwillingly, falling into Zijun's ashes. Your strength seems to have improved a little, Suyu said. The female corpse in the bamboo hat had been dug out from the Nine Serenities crystal and had been occupied by a wisp of her soul for a long time. However, what surprised Suyu was that the female corpse's cultivation had improved a little, even though it had not been summoned for many years. The female corpse in the bamboo hat nodded. I wanted to inform you too. This female corpse is very strange. Is she reviving? Reviving? Suyu stared at the female corpse, slightly doubtful. Could a female corpse that had been dead for tens of thousands of years come back to life? Continue to monitor her. Inform me if anything happens. Suyu waved his hand and summoned them back. Then, he searched Zuowei's body and found many useful things. One was the token that allowed Zuowei to enter and exit the Waning Moon Empress Palace. The other was some tasks that the Waning Moon Empress had given him. One of them was to monitor the Soul Summoning Scholar. Interesting. Suyu laughed. Both Xiaohao and the Waning Moon Empress were worried about the Soul Summoning Scholar. One wanted to kill him. One wanted to keep an eye on him. It seems like this person is more powerful and important than I had imagined, Suyu muttered. Otherwise, the two descendants of the Time God wouldn't have been so afraid of the Soul Summoning Scholar. All right, let's meet this Soul Summoning Scholar then. Suyu picked up Zuowei's badge. With a thought, he turned himself into Zuowei's appearance. Be it his soul or his appearance, they were both extremely real. Waning Moon Empress Palace. Zuowei returned calmly. With the token, he could freely enter and exit the hall. The guards nearby were used to it and did not stop them. Master Zuo, the Empress knows that you have returned and wants to see you. The butler immediately stepped forward, revealing a kind expression. Right now, Zuowei was the favorite of the Waning Moon Empress. Everyone in the Empress Hall was very respectful to him. Okay, Zuowei, no. Suyu nodded and went to meet the Waning Moon Empress. Waning Moon Empress Palace. The place was covered with layers of red silk, and the fragrance of pink was overwhelming. Under the cover of heavy gauze curtains, a charming and enchanting woman was leisurely tasting wine while being served by several handsome young men. Empress, Suyu said respectfully. It's done. The woman waved her hand, and the handsome young men around her left one after another. Come in and talk. The Waning Moon Empress waved her hand, and the 10 layers of gauze curtains parted. Suyu walked over, but before he could get close, a suction force came over. His heart thumped, and he almost resisted. Fortunately, he suppressed his panic and was sucked over as if nothing had happened. There was a black hole in the palm of the Waning Moon Empress, which was filled with boundless wild winds. After sucking Suyu over, the Waning Moon Empress gently covered him with a special round pearl. The wild winds immediately stopped. Zuolang, please don't have any objections. I was just playing with them. You are the one I like the most. As soon as he was sucked over, the Waning Cloud Empress hugged Suyu from behind. The corners of Suyu's eyes twitched. What is going on? Zuowei and the Waning Moon Empress actually have such a relationship? And the Waning Moon Empress is actually such a fickle woman? He couldn't help but think of the beautiful and pure Empress star ring. In comparison, the two empresses were polar opposites. Thousands of thoughts flashed through Suyu's mind. What should he do now? Should he obey, or should he resist? This was too much of a test. After thinking for a moment, Suyu stretched out a finger and touched the chin of the Waning Moon Empress. Now is not the time to fool around. There is something important to do. The Waning Moon Empress smiled charmingly. Zuolang, you are so naughty. But she really didn't intend to continue. She was attracted by the important matter Suyu had mentioned. How did it go? The Waning Moon Empress asked. Suyu said, everything has been done. I have sent Zijun on his way without anyone knowing. The Waning Moon Empress didn't care. She was concerned about something else. So, did you find any useful information from her memory? Suyu nodded deeply. Yes, please take a look. He tossed it into the air, and an image appeared. In the image, the mindful emperor was holding a low-level dominator treasure. The Waning Moon Empress, who was lying on her side, suddenly sat up. Her face was full of surprise. A dominator treasure? How did the mindful emperor get it? Her eyes flickered as she fell into a deep thought. That shouldn't be the case. All the dominator treasures were destroyed in the wilderness of time. Only Xiaohao's people brought back a portion. The Waning Moon Empress was confused. Did Dongming City's treasure come from Xiaohao? If that's the case, doesn't that mean they're also forming an alliance? But not long ago, Xiaohao had given Ximing City a portion of the Dominator treasures and formed an alliance. Xiaohao had clearly said that Dongming City and Nanming City were enemies. What did he mean by secretly forming an alliance with Dongming City? Empress, do you think Xiaohao is scheming against us? Xiaohao likes to scheme. So you try to provoke the waning moon, Empress. He didn't point out because the more intelligent a person was, the more they liked to think deeper. As expected, the waning moon Empress understood immediately. A grave expression appeared on his face. Could it be that Xiaohao wants Ximing City and Dongming City to fight first, so that he can reap the benefits? He would give both sides powerful Dominator treasures and let them fight to the death. In the end, Xiaohao would come out to clean up the mess. It was undoubtedly the best plan. After pondering for a long time, the waning moon Empress said calmly, "We can't make a decision on this matter for now. Let's wait and see." She looked at Su Yu and praised him. "You did well. Go to the back garden and pick some fruits. Also, don't mention this matter to anyone, including the soul-summoning scholar." Su Yu nodded. "I know. I will keep a close eye on the soul-summoning scholar." Chapter 2655. They were now in the palace of the Waning Moon Queen, so the security was tight. It was almost impossible for ordinary people to spy on their conversation. However, the Waning Moon Queen was still so cautious, which showed how much she feared the soul-summoning scholar. "Goodbye," Su Yu said expressionlessly. "Don't forget to pick the fruit," the Waning Moon Queen reminded him without looking up, lost in thought. Su Yu was stunned. "Pick the fruit?" The Waning Moon Queen had mentioned it twice. Puzzled, Su Yu secretly searched the souls of the maids who passed by, but they didn't know what picking the fruit was. Is it really picking the spiritual fruit? Su Yu was shocked. Although he didn't find the fruit, he found the way to the back garden, so he walked slowly. As he walked, he thought. He had met the Waning Moon Queen. This woman was smart and capable. Among the descendants of the 4 rulers of the dream-broken realm, she was second only to Xiaohao. However, it shouldn't be difficult to deal with her. The only worry was the soul-summoning scholar. The more he thought about it, Xiaohao had asked Su Yu to kill him at all costs. Even someone as smart as the Waning Moon Queen was afraid. This person might really be extraordinary. As he was thinking, he arrived at the back garden. With Zhuo Wei's identity, Su Yu went all the way to the depths of the back garden. A strange fruit forest came into view. It was a group of black fruit trees with all kinds of special fruits growing on them. The fruits were of different shapes, but they were full of Taoist energy. Even though he was far away, Su Yu could feel that his body's cultivation was showing signs of increasing. If an ordinary person ate a few of them, he might be able to break through from the early stage of nirvana to the middle stage. However, Su Yu's eyes flashed slightly. The most special thing about the fruit was not its rich Taoist energy. It was that the fruits were condensed from souls. A thought becomes real. Su Yu was slightly shocked. As expected, his guess was right. There was a soul expert who was proficient in a thought becomes real among the Waning Moon Queen's advisors. He narrowed his eyes and stared at the fruits on the tree. However, his pupil shrank slightly when he saw that the fruits were not fruits. They were the souls of living creatures. The soul expert had transformed the souls of living creatures into fruits. If one were to really eat it, one's soul might temporarily sublimate and become stronger, but in the long run, one would be affected by the impurities in one's soul. If it was light, it would cause one to lose consciousness. If it was serious, one's soul would lose its sense of self and be controlled by others. "Brother Zhua, why aren't you eating?" A clear voice rang out. When Su Yu came back to his senses, he glanced sideways and saw a blue-clothed youth carrying a tree branch that he had picked up. He said with a smile, his temperament calm and otherworldly. So you could totally guess who this person was. Soul Summoning Scholar. "Oh." Su Yu casually plucked a fruit and put it into his spatial storage device. The Soul Summoning Scholar stopped and looked at Su Yu with a faint smile. "Brother Zhua, don't you like eating fruit from the backyard? Why keep it?" Su Yu chuckled. "It's rare for the Empress to reward me, so of course I have to keep it and enjoy it." Judging from Zhuo Wei's condition when he died, he did not eat much of this fruit. Haha, it's just some fruits. You can take as many as you want. The soul-summoning scholar plucked 3 fruits and threw them to Suyu. Suyu was extremely vigilant, and he rolled up his sleeves to keep the fruit. When he was about to pick them up, he heard a gnawing sound coming from his sleeves. When he lowered his head to take a look, he saw that the 3 fruits had grown ferocious faces. Their mouths were full of teeth, and they were tearing Suyu's sleeves to shreds. Suyu was startled, but he quickly calmed down. This was just the soul realm, so he did not need to worry too much. Brother Zwa, you seem quite calm. The soul-summoning scholar wore a faint smile. Suyu looked at him. He had a feeling that the soul-summoning scholar had already seen through him. I'm just pretending to be calm, Suyu said modestly. The soul-summoning scholar put down the scissors and shook his head earnestly. No, you aren't pretending to be calm. You are really calm. This is because you and I are both proficient in the soul realm's ultimate profound meaning, the soul realm, turning true. A smile appeared on his face. It was supposed to be a gentle smile, but now it seemed sinister and evil. We finally meet, Suyu. It turned out that just as Suyu knew about the soul-summoning scholar, he also knew about Suyu's existence. I've been wanting to meet you for a long time. The soul-summoning scholar strode over. The fruit forest behind him turned into black smoke and condensed into a whip, which was grasped by his hand. You were able to conjure a lifelike Elder Shao, Mo, and deceive Zhuowei and his group of fools, so you must be someone who has achieved the soul realm. The soul-summoning scholar's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. He stared at Suyu without blinking and said in admiration, Originally, I planned to fight with you after conquering Nanming City. I didn't expect that you would come to Shiming City and use the soul realm to disguise yourself as Zhuowei to barge into the Emperor's palace. To be honest, I really admire your courage. He really didn't expect that Suyu would be so daring. You flatter me, Suyu said calmly. I also admire your courage. You actually dared to deceive the waning Moon Empress and her subjects with a living person's soul. Aren't you afraid that the waning Moon Empress will find out and kill you? Hearing this, the soul-summoning scholar laughed. Don't worry. She wouldn't dare. Even if she knew that I did it, she wouldn't dare do anything to me because she still needs me to deal with Xiaohao. How arrogant. He actually dared to say that he would deal with Xiaohao. Everyone knew how powerful Xiaohao was, but the soul-summoning scholar still dared to say that he could deal with Xiaohao. Perhaps this was the reason why Xiaohao and the waning Moon Empress were so afraid of him. Watch out for my whip. The soul-summoning scholar waved his long whip and lashed at Suyu fiercely. Suyu didn't dodge. It was a whip formed by the soul realm, so it could be changed at the last moment, such as lengthening it. Therefore, it was impossible for him to dodge it. Shield! Suyu willed it, and a giant shield appeared in front of him. Slap! With a muffled sound, the whip lashed at him. The shield was extremely sturdy, and it didn't budge at all. Oh, interesting. It seems like you have cultivated the soul realm for more than a few years. The soul-summoning scholar was surprised. The long whip in his hand suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a long, pitch-black sword. Moreover, 2 eyes appeared behind the soul-summoning scholar. One, I was a beginner's domain. The other, I was a middle-grade domain. Try again. The soul-summoning scholar laughed and slashed at Suyu again. This sword was obviously more than twice as powerful as the whip just now. This was because he had released a middle-grade domain. Suyu's heart shook, and 2 eyes appeared on top of his head. As he looked at it, the shield in front of him enlarged endlessly, and it blocked the opponent's long sword. Middle-grade soul realm. The soul-summoning scholar was surprised, and he sized Suyu up. Instead of feeling serious, he laughed heartily. Great! It's been a long time since I last saw an opponent who could make me take him seriously. Suyu, you really surprised me. The soul-summoning scholar laughed heartily. As Suyu's pupils contracted slightly, a 3rd eye appeared on top of his head. High-grade soul realm. Chapter 2656. Again, the soul-summoning scholar shouted crazily. The long sword in his hand turned into a spear. He threw it from afar, and the spear turned into a sharp black arrow, which pierced through the air. Puff! The shield formed by Su Yu's one true thought was penetrated by the spear. The spear was unstoppable and was about to hurt him. Su Yu's eyes were calm as he displayed the space domain silently. Instantly, the spear was twisted and flew past Su Yu's shoulder. The soul-summoning scholar's laughter stopped abruptly. Wait, you're also proficient in the space domain? The soul-summoning scholar was startled. Apparently, this was beyond his expectation. Su Yu said calmly, "Isn't that what you want?" Creak. Countless tiny space domains penetrated into the soul-summoning scholar's body. The next moment, his body was disintegrated into particles by the space domain, which scattered on the ground. The whole garden regained its peace immediately. Only the sound of the battle lingered for a long time. Su Yu flew down and said calmly, "Come out. If you die so easily, you will be letting down the realm of one true thought." As he spoke, he waved his hand at a flower in the distance. The flower fell to the ground, but it shattered in midair like a broken mirror. A man walked out from behind the mirror. Both the space domain and the soul domain have reached the middle level. How amazing, the soul-summoning scholar said slowly. There was no madness in his eyes anymore. There was only a deep seriousness in his eyes. It's a pity that you have come to the wrong place. From now on, you will stay in this garden and sleep forever, the soul-summoning scholar said calmly. As he waved his sleeves, the wind and clouds surged. The whole garden started shaking. The four walls kept extending into the sky, turning into a cage with only a gap on the top. The waning moon empress will find out soon. The experts in the Empress Hall will also come here as soon as possible, the soul-summoning scholar said calmly. Su Yu's eyes were calm and emotionless. Is that so? He grabbed the sky with his palm. He actually grabbed the sky and pressed it down continuously. The four walls of the courtyard were pressed down until they became smaller and smaller. In the end, they returned to normal. At this moment, looking over with the naked eye, one would discover that there was a small pitch-black array flag above their heads. Emperor Xiaohao's solitary nothingness? The soul-summoning scholar frowned when he recognized it. No wonder no one had rushed over despite the huge commotion just now. So that was how it was. Umph. It's fine even if you don't come. I alone am more than enough. The soul-summoning scholar harumphed coldly, and the air around him shuddered as 18 types of divine weapons appeared. Every one of them was a top-notch magic treasure that imitated the time domain. Although it was impossible for it to have the power of a real magic treasure, it could still display a trace of its power. Among them, the Sovereign Lord's treasure was the most powerful. It was an offensive Dharma treasure that Emperor Xiao had given to the waning moon empress. It possessed the power of the heavenly law master. Now that he had materialized it with one thought as real, its power was naturally not as great as the Heaven Dao Masters, but it was more than enough to kill a Dao Master. Destroy! The soul-summoning scholar stood on the spot and pointed a finger forward. Many magical treasures immediately erupted with the power to shake the heavens as they attacked. Su Yu's face was calm, and he did not use the soul realm again. These magic treasures of the opponent were all conjured by the high-level soul domain's one thought to become truth. It was very difficult for him to fight against it purely in the soul domain. Future incarnation. Su Yu shouted as he weaved signs with his palms and activated the time domain. A Su Yu, who looked exactly like him, appeared in front of him. The soul-summoning scholar replied indifferently, "Is there any use in using a true thought before me?" Wait, this isn't a true thought. He woke up with a start. The Su Yu in front of him wasn't just a simple true thought. He had integrated the time domain. Who are you? To actually be proficient in 3 domains at the same time? Inconceivable. Su Yu calmly said, "I have been entrusted by someone to take your life." The 2 Su Yes attacked at the same time, and they were both proficient in exactly the same things. The most terrifying thing was that they were the same person and their minds were connected. Time freeze. Space split. The time domain instantly froze the soul-summoning scholar in place, rendering him unable to move. As for the other Suyu, he used the Space Division technique to cut the soul-summoning scholar, who couldn't budge an inch, into tiny pieces. The two Suyus couldn't help but furrow their brows at the fact that they had killed the soul-summoning scholar so easily. Suyu's main body closed his eyes. Killing curse. He grabbed a speck of dust from the soul-summoning scholar and cursed from afar. The curse extended toward the soul-summoning scholar's true body along the threads of fate. In the corner of the back garden, an ant that was quietly climbing up the wall among a group of ants suddenly screamed in agony. Then, it transformed from an ant into the soul-summoning scholar. There was a huge death character on his forehead. The death character kept spreading around his body, causing his vitality to be quickly restored. Life recovery. A hint of panic finally appeared on the soul-summoning scholar's face. He immediately used true thought to summon vitality to restore his body. Then he stared at Suyu fiercely and shouted, "You can't escape." The souls in his body exploded like mist, turning into thousands of wisps and shooting in all directions. There were so many of them that it was difficult to catch them all. As long as one wisp escaped with his high-level soul domain, he could restore his soul with just a thought. Fate. Reincarnation. Two Suyu used the domain at the same time. One used fate to forcibly connect all of the separated souls with the threads of fate. The other activated the 6 reincarnation gates. Some of the souls were forcibly sucked into the reincarnation gates, while the other souls that were connected to these souls couldn't escape and were sucked in one after another. No, stop. One soul fragment after another screamed in fear. Once they were baptized by the 6 paths of reincarnation, their memories and cultivation would be washed away, leaving only an empty soul. Explode. The soul-summoning scholar had no choice but to explode the souls that were sucked in. Only then did he cut off the connection of fate between the separated souls. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the souls that participated in the soul-summoning scholar reformed. His face was extremely gloomy at the moment. The descendant of the ancient god Jiolong, the soul-summoning scholar said in a serious voice. Without saying a word, the two Suyu used the domain again. Death stare. Time freeze. The 2 domains were used at the same time. The soul-summoning scholar was frozen again, and his soul was forcibly extracted. It was about to be swallowed by the death stare. Suddenly, a round pearl appeared in the soul-summoning scholar's soul. The round pearl released the pressure of the heavenly law master, which crushed all the domains in the sky. This was the life-saving treasure that the soul-summoning scholar had obtained as the descendant of the soul dominator. His face was extremely gloomy. Originally, he wanted to tease Suyu. However, Suyu's unfathomable strength made him suffer a setback. Chapter 26:57. Suyu, I will never spare you. The soul-summoning scholar's heart was filled with hatred. To be precise, it wasn't hatred. It was fear. He was terrified to the extreme. Suyu, the successor of the ancient god, had terrifying abilities. It was so terrifying that it sent shivers down one's spine. After saying that, the soul-summoning scholar's soul took the opportunity to break free and dash toward the Emperor's Hall. Not only did the Heaven Law Master's defense shatter the domain, but it also broke through solitary to nothingness's shield. He believed that at this moment, the Emperor's Hall had already sensed the abnormality in the back garden. It would only take a short moment for the Empress and the elites of the Earth Path Masters in the Emperor's Palace to rush over. At that time, Suyu would be doomed. However, how could Suyu allow him to escape? All origins returned to origin. Both Suyu took a deep breath at the same time and displayed the 4 great domains. The 8 domains merged into one, turning into a giant cauldron that looked down on the world. The cauldron was towering and heavy. It emanated a might that could suppress the heavens and the earth and suppress the ancient times. Everything in the world, every living thing in the world, could be suppressed for eternity. These were the 8 great domains that Suyu had comprehended after raising his domain to the middle level. He used the 8 most basic domains in the world to build a giant cauldron that suppressed the heavens and suppressed the ancient times. This cauldron contained 8 domains and could be said to be the strongest domain. Therefore, it was called the All Origins Return. All domains in the world could not escape the framework of the 8 domains. This cauldron represented a world. Rumble. With a dull thud, the giant cauldron fell toward the soul-summoning scholar. The latter's face turned pale with shock. Without hesitation, he split his soul into countless pieces and fled with all his might. However, no matter where he fled to, he was always enveloped by the giant cauldron. Kwang. With a dull thud, the soul-summoning scholar was suppressed by the cauldron. I cannot die. I, the soul-summoning scholar, will become the ruler of the Tao of the soul. The soul-summoning scholar roared in indignation as he struggled. However, it was all in vain. The giant cauldron crushed him. Moreover, the 8 domains continuously weakened his soul, like a blade that continuously stripped his existence. The soul of soul summoning was becoming transparent at a speed visible to the naked eye. 3 breaths later, there was only a thin layer of air left in soul summoning, just like water. Less than 1% of his soul was destroyed. With a wave of Su Yu's palm, the giant cauldron formed by the 8 great domains dispersed. At the same time, he took out a jade box and sealed the soul-summoning scholar's remnant soul within it. He was going to use this to exchange for Xiaohao's time ruler's treasure. After finishing everything, the future clone clasped his fist and left. Su Yu quickly left the place. Just as he was about to leave, several figures caught up with him. Among them was the Waning Moon Queen. The soul-summoning scholar has been obliterated. One of the Tao lords exclaimed in shock. Who is so powerful? Could it be Xiaohao? The Waning Moon Queen's face was pale and filled with anger. The soul-summoning scholar was his trump card. He was actually killed in such a baffling manner. Who did it? The Waning Moon Empress growled. At that moment, Su Yu ran to the backyard. Panting, looking at the horrifying backyard, he feigned ignorance. Empress, what happened? The Waning Moon Empress asked with a gloomy expression. Where did you go just now? If she remembered correctly, she had asked Zhuo Wei to come to the backyard to pick fruits. Zhuo Wei said solemnly, I was on my way here when I heard a loud noise, so I came to take a look. Did it take so long to get from her bedroom to the backyard? Empress, are you suspecting me? Su Yu smiled bitterly. Hearing his bitter smile, the Waning Moon Empress realized that she was being too paranoid. With Zhuo Wei's strength, he couldn't even cut a hair off the soul-summoning scholar, let alone obliterate him. You were the closest to this place. Did you find anyone suspicious? The Waning Moon Queen asked. Su Yu pondered for a moment, then said, Empress, during the time I was away, did you recruit any women who were proficient in the space law? Huh? The Waning Moon Queen's eyes turned grave. No. Who did you find? On my way here, I vaguely saw the back of a young woman. She left through the watery space law, Su Yu said seriously. The Waning Moon Queen pondered. Water-like space law? Suddenly, her eyes shone brightly. You must be talking about the space domain. Su Yu said hurriedly. She left in a hurry, so I didn't have time to judge. But only the descendants of the Space Master have the space domain, right? How could it appear in our time domain? Crack. The flagstone under the Waning Moon Queen's feet shattered with a crack. A wisp of uncontrollable, frenzied energy was flickering on the surface of her body. She clenched her right fist, her face filled with great anger. Isn't there a descendant of the Space Master in our dream, severed realm? The Waning Moon Queen thought of Xiaohao's mysterious advisor, Yanran. Combined with the information brought back by Zhuo Wei, Xiaohao had secretly handed over a part of the Space Master's treasures to Dongming City. The Waning Moon Queen's doubts disappeared completely. Xiaohao was definitely not forming an alliance with them on purpose. He was really planning to reap the benefits of a third party. Empress, are you talking about Yanran, the woman beside Great Emperor Xiaohao? Su Yu pretended to think about it and said, It shouldn't be. Why would Xiaohao attack our soul-summoning scholar? The Waning Moon Queen said coldly, There is no need to doubt it. It must be Xiaohao. He wanted to get rid of the summoning scholar, for a long time. When we formed an alliance last time, Xiaohao's eyes were filled with killing intent when he looked at him. I didn't expect him to really dare to attack us. Damn it, Su Yu was secretly amused. Why did he pretend to be Zhuo Wei and create the illusion that Xiaohao and Dongming City were cooperating? It was all for this moment, so he could easily wash away suspicion. The pitiful waning moon queen did not understand that she had fallen into Su Yu's trap from the very beginning. Moreover, Su Yu had also predicted what the waning moon queen would do next. Moreover, he had set up another set of traps. Empress, how should we deal with Baiming City? Should we make a decision, or should we continue to form an alliance? Su Yu asked. The waning moon queen's eyes flickered as she said, Of course we continue to form an alliance. You must pretend this never happened, and do not spread the word. Su Yu continued to sow discord. But what should we do about this debt? Are we just going to swallow this humiliation? The waning moon queen laughed coldly. Am I someone who will suffer losses? He killed my people, so I can't kill his? Swoosh! The waning moon queen took out a flag, which was filled with a powerful sealing power. Zhuo Wei, you will take this flag and lead 3 strong roadmasters to assassinate the strong martial artist beside Xiaohao, Yanran. Su Yu laughed himself. As expected, the waning moon queen's next step was to take revenge on Xiaohao and assassinate Yanran. Her actions were not difficult to predict. The waning moon queen was a vengeful person, and she had a cruel nature. How could he allow himself to suffer such a huge loss? Hence, she would definitely take revenge. Chapter 2658. Su Yu feigned fear. Empress, aren't you overestimating me? That Yanran is the descendant of the Space Master. How could I kill her so easily? The waning moon empress held the sealing flag, her eyes cold. Don't worry. If I wasn't confident, why would I let you do it? This flag can be considered half a ruler's treasure. Once activated, it can unleash the powerful sealing power of a later-stage tunnel master, sealing off all nearby space. Yinran's most powerful ability is the space domain. But if even space is sealed off, what power does she have? It was not easy to obtain this flag. The waning moon empress had intended to use it in the contest for the ruler. Now, for revenge, she had to use it first. Su Yu solemnly accepted the flag. I will not let you down. I swear to complete the mission with my life. Perhaps his resolute attitude had opened her heart. The waning moon empress' eyes were gentle. Zhuo Wei, you have done so much for me, but I have never repaid you. When you return, I will give you everything you want. Oh, Zhuo Wei had thought of asking for something. The waning moon empress' trust in Zhuo Wei was extraordinary. Zhuo Wei was a traitor of the Star Rain Empress. As for traitors, no one was willing to trust them. It could be seen that Zhuo Wei had been a subordinate of the waning moon empress before he became the personal guard of the Star Rain Empress. I don't dare ask for anything. I just want to do my best to help the Empress, Su Yu said. The waning moon empress nodded gently. Go. When you return, I will give you what you want. I will take my leave. Soon, Su Yu traveled with the 3 tunnel masters personally dispatched by the Empress to Baiming City. The 3 tunnel masters had been trained by the waning moon empress for many years. They did not have their own names, only code names. Lord Zhua, Ada, Ah-Er, and Ah-San are all at your command, the 3 of them said respectfully. Their respect was not just because Zhuo Wei's abilities were slightly higher than theirs. It was more because Zhuo Wei was the waning moon empress' trusted aide. Okay. Su Yu nodded, then stepped onto the transportation between cities. A year later, Baiming City. Su Yu was filled with emotions as he returned to the city. When he first came here, he had almost been cornered by Xiaohao. The 3 of you, follow my plan and proceed like this. The 3 of them immediately dispersed and went about their own business. Su Yu walked on the street with his hands clasped behind his back. After a few seemingly unintentional walks, he arrived at a decent manor. With a thought, he teleported into the manor. There were groups of maids and guards patrolling the manor. An elegant and beautiful woman was playing the zither in the courtyard. Suddenly, she seemed to sense something and turned around. Looking at the bamboo-hatted man in front of him, he immediately bowed. Greetings, Creator. Welcome back, creator. Suyu took off his bamboo hat and revealed his true appearance. It's been 10 years, yet you still remember it. Suyu sighed. The woman in front of him was none other than a living creature that Suyu had left behind in the Beiming city. A creature that had been created on the spot. She was still holding the white feather gate left behind by Suyu. I dare not forget the creator's orders. The woman lowered her head. Suyu had only left her some time crystals and asked her to find a place to settle down. She never thought that after so many years, she would use those crystals of time to build her own family. Do you have a name? Suyu asked. The woman hesitated for a while, then said, Yes, Wen Shui. A creature that was created without any memories would not have a name. Who named you? My lover. Oh, does she already have a lover? Are you already married? Suyu frowned slightly. He did not object to the marriage of the creatures he created, except for those who had a mission. Wen Shui dare not. The woman said in fear and trepidation. Wen Shui remembers the creator's kindness and never dares to forget it. I dare not marry. Suyu's eyebrows relaxed. He looked at Wen Shui deeply and said, Do you still have the thing I gave you? Yes. Wen Shui immediately took out the intact white feather gate. It was obvious that she had put a lot of effort into it. Suyu reached out to take it, stroked it, and slowly stood up. Your mission has been completed. Enjoy your life to the fullest. As his voice fell, Suyu's figure became blurred and floated away. Too much time had passed, and she already had her own consciousness in life, so she was no longer suitable to manage the white feather gate. Wen Shui's body trembled, and she said sadly, Creator, don't abandon me. Unfortunately, Suyu had already left. Wen Shui knelt for a long time before she stood up dejectedly. Her heart was empty, and she had no one to rely on. Right at that moment, a figure barged in. Wen Shui, look what I brought back for you. A young man in a fur coat walked in with a smile. He was none other than the Beast Slave King. He was a young man who was good at enslaving beasts and was imprisoned in the Holy Light Palace. Ever since he escaped, he had been wandering in the extraterrestrial world. It was not until the extraterrestrial world was shattered that he was lucky enough to come to an 8-star civilization. But he was still muddle-headed until one day he met a pure and beautiful human girl by the river. She looked lost and sad, and she kept asking who she was as she looked at the water in the stream. At that moment, the Beast Slave King's heart was touched. For the first time in his life, he had the urge to protect that girl. With his help, the girl gradually got to know the world, and, at the same time, she got a name, Wen Shui. The Beast Slave King walked in and found Wen Shui staring at the sky absent-mindedly, tears streaming down her face. Wen Shui, what happened to you? The Beast Slave King ran over immediately, feeling sorry for her. Wen Shui sobbed. The Creator has been here. Ah, he's here? The Beast Slave King looked around. Where is he? He abandoned me and left. He said that my mission is done, Wen Shui said sadly, as if she had lost her pillar of support. The Beast Slave King hugged Wen Shui and said softly, It's okay, I'm still here. Is it my fault? Why did the Creator abandon me? Wen Shui couldn't help asking. The Beast Slave King looked at the sky and said slowly, No, the Creator gave you freedom. He paused and said, If there's a chance, I will repay the Creator and thank him for giving you your existence. So, don't worry, okay? Only then did Wen Shui nod, and she snuggled into the Beast Slave King's arms. Slave, you are the best person in the world, second only to the Creator. Wen Shui felt a little relieved. The best? The Beast Slave King felt a stabbing pain in his heart, and a complicated expression appeared on his face. In the past, he really wasn't a good person. He could even be described as evil. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been imprisoned by the Holy Light Palace for so many years. However, only in front of Wen Shui, he was clean, clear, and kind. Although it was just a lie, he still wanted to protect it, and didn't want it to be destroyed. Back to Suyu. He came to a restaurant. I need to create another living creature. He sighed and sent a message to Yanran. Chapter 26:59. After waiting for a while in a restaurant, suddenly The space around Su Yu fluctuated like water. Then, Yinran walked out of it. She looked at Su Yu, who was wearing a bamboo hat, and asked uncertainly, "Who are you?" Su Yu did not say a word. The 8 realms were circulating in his palm. "Greetings, Senior." Yinran was delighted. Apart from this mysterious expert from the Tao Abyss, who else could have learned the 8 sovereign domains from him? "Have a seat." Su Yu made an inviting gesture. Yinran sat down happily, and her eyes were full of expectation. "Senior, how is the soul-summoning scholar?" This person was one of the people Xiaohao feared the most in the realm of broken dreams. He had always been eager to get rid of him. However, this soul-summoning scholar was extremely cunning. He hid in the depths of the palace of the waning Moon Empress and never came out. It was too difficult to kill him. So he took out a jade box and wiped it with his palm. One could see a weak, struggling soul inside. The soul-summoning scholar. Yinran screamed in surprise. "Senior, you are so powerful." Although she had high hopes for Su Yu, she was still prepared for failure. After all, the soul-summoning scholar was too difficult to kill. Who would have thought that he would actually succeed? Her respect for Su Yu deepened by another level. Only a strong expert like him could go to the waning Moon Empress and kill the soul-summoning scholar. "Did you bring the Time Master's treasure?" Su Yu asked. Yinran stopped smiling and said with a wry smile, "I am only Xiaohao's assistant. How can I manage such an important Time Master's treasure for him?" She gave him a reassuring smile. "Senior, don't worry. Since you killed the soul-summoning scholar, I believe Xiaohao will give you the Time Master's treasure as promised. After I go back and report it, I believe Xiaohao will meet you in person." Meet him in person? Su Yu was not afraid of meeting him now. "Senior, please wait for a moment. I will go back and report it to Emperor Xiaohao." Yinran was in a good mood. She could already imagine the scene of her being praised by Emperor Xiaohao. "Wait," Su Yu said suddenly. "I have something to say, but I don't know whether I should say it or not." Yinran sensed Su Yu's unusual tone, so she said cautiously, "Senior, please say it. How much trust do you think great Emperor Xiaohao has in you?" Su Yu asked. Yinran rolled her eyes and said, "If it was someone else, I could only say that Xiaohao trusts me completely. However, in front of Senior, I can only say half of it. I know that Xiaohao has been sending people to spy on me. Just like how the soul-summoning scholar was monitored by the waning Moon Queen. Xiaohao was also worried about Yinran. Otherwise, Xiaohao wouldn't have arranged for Bai Yun and Hong Xian to go with him to the Holy City." "It's good that you know what you're doing," Su Yu said. Yinran suddenly felt a little worried and probed. "Senior, could it be that you have something to tell me?" Su Yu nodded. "When I came to the Baiming City, I met some suspicious people by accident. Through the Soul Realm, I found out some secrets. Is it related to me?" Yinran's heart tightened. Su Yu nodded. "I can't be sure, but since we are fated to meet, I want to warn you." His half-hearted words made Yinran even more uneasy. Her expression was solemn as she bowed respectfully and said, "Senior, please tell me. Yinran will be very grateful." Su Yu said, "I accidentally found out that a few tunnel masters were discussing how to kill you." He waved his finger in the air, and an image appeared. It was Ada, Ah-Er, and Ah-San. They had gathered in a pavilion and were discussing the ambush. Occasionally, the word Yinran could be heard. Seeing this, Yinran became extremely vigilant and stared at the 3 people in the image. "Do you know them?" Su Yu asked. Yinran shook her head, her expression extremely solemn. "I've never seen them before." However, because she had never seen them before, she felt even more uneasy. This was because she couldn't be sure whether the 3 of them were sent by Xiaohao or someone else. Maybe they were sent by some other faction. Yinran comforted herself. Su Yu said calmly, "I hope so, but you better be prepared. Xiaohao is a man, so how can he allow others to sleep on his side?" Yinran clenched her fists, her mind full of thoughts. She was really worried that it was Xiaohao's doing. During the trip to the Time Wilderness, Yinran had not handed over all of her Dominator treasures. She had only handed over few. Xiaohao probably had some suspicions about this. She was worried that Xiaohao would use this opportunity to kill her and take away all of her Dominator treasures. Thank you for reminding me, Elder. I will take precautions, Yinran said anxiously. Okay, go. Tell Xiaohao to bring the Time Dominator's treasures here tomorrow, at the same time. Yes, Elder. Yinran left anxiously, leaving Su Yu behind with the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. He didn't expect to convince Yinran to betray him with just a few words. He just needed to beat around the bush and plant a seed of suspicion in Yinran's heart. Then, this trip would not have been in vain. Next, he just needed to let this seed germinate and grow. Then, it would be a great success. After Yinran left, Su Yu casually tapped on the table. A wriggling, I slowly sank into the table. Then, Su Yu himself left. Half a day later, a few sneaky tunnel masters came to this private room without a sound. After looking around, the tunnel master who was the leader shook his head and said, "He has already left. Hurry up and set it up." They each took out a high-grade formation flag and set it up in the private room. The formation flags were very peculiar, not inferior to Jiwu's. Once they were set up, it would be difficult to detect their existence. But unlike Jiwu, the formation flags were not used for shielding, but for sealing and attacking purposes. In a faraway place, in a training cavern, Su Yu sat cross-legged. The floating eyeball in front of him reflected everything in the room. As expected. Su Yu laughed coldly. Xiaohao still can't bear to part with the Time Dominator's treasures. Not only did Xiaohao not intend to keep his promise, he even wanted to take the opportunity to kill Su Yu and take away the Time Dominator's treasures. That's really in line with your usual character. Su Yu's eyes were extremely calm. But I'm afraid you've schemed against the wrong person. See you tomorrow. The next day, in the restaurant, Su Yu went to the restaurant as if nothing had happened. When he arrived, there were already several core members of Xiaohao's faction there. Yinran, by Yinhong Xian, and her father were among them. Where is Xiaohao? Su Yu asked expressionlessly. Yinran looked apologetic. Xiaohao is still on his way here. Elder, please wait patiently. Su Yu smiled and sat down calmly. Bai Yinhong Xian, who was beside him, stared at Su Yu without blinking. Traces of excitement and joy swirled in his eyes. But she pretended not to know him and stood by the side without saying a word. On his way here, Su Yu asked calmly. How could he be on his way here? He was obviously late on purpose. The people who came the latest were the ones with the highest status. Xiaohao did not feel that his status was lower than Su Yu's. Chapter 2660. Elder, please excuse me for not welcoming you earlier. Xiaohao's voice arrived before everyone. Everyone felt their vision blur, and then Emperor Xiaohao appeared on the table. How could Su Yu be unfamiliar with such a technique? It was the realm of time. Xiaohao had come to this place to increase the effect of his mysterious appearance by freezing time. Unfortunately, Su Yu had already seen through him. Where's the item? Su Yu asked directly without any expression on his face. Xiaohao laughed. Elder, you are really impatient. How can I go back on my word? After a pause, he said, however, before that, please let me see whether the soul of the soul-summoning scholar is real or not. Yinran curled her lips. She had done a paternity test, so how could it be fake? Xiaohao was really worried about her. The doubt in her heart increased a little. No problem. So you took out the jade box and opened it. The soul of the soul-summoning scholar inside was clearly visible, and there was no trace of it being fake. Xiaohao looked at it carefully for a while, and his expression remained calm. The room was silent, and everyone was waiting for Xiaohao's answer. It's fake. However, Xiaohao said something that surprised everyone. Fake. Not to mention Yinran. Even Bai Yun and Hong Xian could sense that it was indeed the soul of the soul-summoning scholar. How could Emperor Xiaohao say it was fake? Yinran did not expect this. She thought it was a fair exchange, and she did not expect Emperor Xiaohao to say that it was fake. I'm sorry, but you failed to complete the task. I can't give you the treasure of the Time Master. Xiaohao shook his head indifferently. Yinran suddenly felt that both sides were not human. The task was conveyed to Su Yu through her. Now that Xiaohao refused to admit it, Su Yu would definitely blame her, right? Emperor, take a closer look. This is indeed the soul of the soul-summoning scholar. It's definitely not fake. Yinran said secretly. Xiao Hao looked at her calmly and said expressionlessly, "If I say it's fake, then it's fake." When Yinran was about to argue, Suyu waved his hand and said calmly, "Since you said it's fake, I'll take my leave." His expression was extremely calm, and there was no sign of anger on the spot. This was different from what Xiao Hao had expected. As expected, he went back on his word and publicly went against the agreement, causing this person's hard work to go down the drain. They would definitely fly into a rage out of humiliation. At the very least, they would reprimand him angrily. But he didn't. "Wait," Xiao Hao said solemnly. Even if things didn't go as he expected, he still had to act according to plan. Suyu kept the jade box leisurely and calmly asked, "What's the matter?" Xiao Hao said indifferently, "You try to deceive this great emperor and swindle this great emperor's treasures. What punishment do you deserve?" Hearing this, Yinran's expression changed. Had Emperor Xiao Hao gone mad? He actually set his sights on Senior. Senior was a powerful existence that could enter the waning Moon Emperor's palace and kill the soul beckoning scholar. Suyu replied calmly, "So what? Nothing much. I just want to warn the world that those who lie to me, Xiao Hao, will not have a good ending," Suyu said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire private room burst out rays of light from the formation. With Xiao Hao as the center, a golden barrier appeared, protecting him, Yanran, and by Yinhong Xian. In addition, the whole room's walls were covered by a lightning-like electric net. It was only now that the formation's power was revealed. These were all formations at the level of the Earthmaster. Unless one's cultivation was at the middle level, he would be instantly destroyed by the formation if he touched it. "Kneel down and call yourself my subordinate, and I will spare your life." Xiao Hao sat proudly, looking down at Suyu with the posture of king. He didn't look guilty at all. Only Yinran had a premonition that something bad was about to happen. If he treated Senior like this, he would really be doomed. Suyu stood where he was, neither fleeing nor panicking. He calmly asked, "Xiao Hao, are you sure you won't regret this?" Xiao Hao laughed. Xiao Hao, have never regretted anything in my entire life." "Kneel down immediately. Now immediately." Suyu calmly extended his finger and pointed at Xiao Hao. Xiao Hao's eyes turned cold. "Stubborn thing. Kill. Creak." All the killing formations in the room were activated at the same time. In an instant, countless destructive rays of light intertwined to form a giant net, which penetrated the whole room. Apart from inside of the light barrier, the rest of the space was cut countless times by the crisscrossing space. In an instant, Suyu's figure was cut into numerous densely packed lines. Xiao Hao laughed coldly. "Not much. Yinran, your eyesight is still a bit off." When he had first heard Yinran talk about how powerful this person was, he had been worried that the formation alone wouldn't be enough. Hence, he had set up more ambushes outside the restaurant. However, they were all destroyed by the formation in a few moments. Xiao Hao was very disappointed. Yinran was stunned. How could this be? The omnipotent, tyrannical, and invincible Senior in her heart, who might even surpass the masters, couldn't even withstand a single blow? However, right at that moment, Suyu's body fell piece by piece. However, there wasn't the slightest trace of blood. All that was left were sparkling and translucent particles. Xiao Hao's pupils shrank as he stared at the scene in front of him with a grave expression. The highest realm of the soul realm. One thought becomes real. This was the ultimate skill of the soul summoning scholar. It was a level that very few descendants of the soul master could achieve. Yinran heaved a sigh of relief. This was more like it. With the Senior's terrifying strength, how could he be defeated by a small formation so easily? At that moment, Suyu's body fell apart, leaving only the finger that was pointing at Xiao Hao. "Xiao Hao, you really disappoint me. I had originally thought highly of you, but I didn't expect that your tricks were just child's play." Suyu's voice suddenly echoed in the room. The people didn't understand what was going on, but they saw the surface of the table within the light barrier. Suddenly, the outline of a giant eye appeared. The eye was filled with disappointment and pity. There was also a trace of destructive power of the Tunnel Master. "Quickly disperse." Xiao Hao's expression changed drastically as he hurriedly retreated. However, it was too late. The eyeball suddenly exploded, producing a violent shockwave that sent everyone flying. Xiao Hao was the most severely injured, as he was the first to bear the brunt of the blast. His body was badly mutilated, and he almost lost half of his body. Damn it! Xiao Hao growled in a low voice as he consumed a secret medicine to recover his body. He had been tricked. Of course, he had been tricking Su Yu from the very beginning. From the moment he had tricked Su Yu to kill the soul-summoning scholar, he had already planned for this scene. However, he didn't expect that Su Yu would be able to see through everything and plot against him. Although it didn't cause any harm to Xiao Hao's life, it dealt a severe blow to Xiao Hao's ability to scheme, which he was so proud of. However, at that moment, another voice echoed in the room. "Do you think this is the end?" "I'm sorry, this is just the beginning." Xiao Hao looked around and found a jade talisman left behind in the room. The words in the jade talisman had been left a long time ago. It meant that the other party had accurately predicted this scene. Xiao Hao squinted his eyes, and a trace of fear welled up in his heart. If that person wasn't proficient in seeing through the future, he would be too terrifying. Chapter 2661. Yinran heaved a sigh of relief when she saw this. That was more like it. With that senior's ability to appear and disappear mysteriously, how could he possibly fail so easily in such an easy task? It was golden-eyed Lang Jun who reminded him, "Your Majesty, we have to pay attention to the message this person left behind. Please return to the main hall as soon as possible." Xiao Hao came to his senses. The other party said that the explosion just now was just the beginning. "Let's go back." Xiao Hao stood up. At that moment, the ground shook. The entire restaurant shook incessantly, and the people in the private room almost fell down from the tremors. This was because of the seal. When the tremors dissipated, they immediately opened the seal and looked outside. In the end, a shocking scene unfolded before their eyes. The entire North Bright City, with the Great Emperor's Hall as the center, was distorted. It was as if the space had exploded, causing the surrounding space to be in chaos. The streets, houses, and pavilions were all distorted. The Great Emperor's Hall was in the most miserable state. The main hall was torn apart and cut into different spaces, each independent of the other. Many powerhouses, servants, and maids were sealed inside. Outsiders could not enter, and the people inside could not come out. The once bustling North Ming City was instantly plunged into a huge panic, and everything was in a mess. Unless the local space was restored, North Bright City would continue to be in chaos. What caused this? Xiao Hao's pupils constricted. He looked at the distorted space and gasped. Yinran's eyes flashed with shock. She murmured, "This is caused by some kind of destructive domain." "Domain?" Xiao Hao said in a deep voice. "What kind of domain is so terrifying?" Yinran shook her head. "I don't know. I've never seen such a scene. Let's go back and take a look." Xiao Hao came to the sky above the Great Emperor's Hall. Looking down from above, he realized that there was a huge cauldron's leg mark on the ground of the old hall. A cauldron? Xiao Hao was confused. He was experienced and knowledgeable, but he had never heard of such a powerful cauldron. Moreover, it was a cauldron formed by a domain. "Let's see who it is." Xiao Hao waved his hand, and fluorescent lights flashed around the Great Emperor's Hall. There was a surveillance formation set up here that recorded everything that happened nearby. The fluorescent light condensed in front of them, forming an image. In the image, a man wearing a bamboo hat, whose face could not be seen clearly, waved his hand and a huge cauldron appeared. Then, he slammed it into the ground. The entire space of Biming City was distorted by the pressure of this strange cauldron. "What is it?" Xiao Hao was shocked. Since he wasn't there personally, he couldn't sense the 8 domains emanating from the cauldron. Yinran's eyes were filled with shock. Is this senior's strength? One cauldron to crush the entire North Ming City? The video did not stop. After suppressing Biming City, Su Yu seemed to have sensed the existence of the formation. He glanced sideways and said, "Let's continue." Xiao Hao's expression changed violently when he heard this. Shit, he's going to cause trouble again. The gears in his mind spun as he tried to figure out where the other party might appear. The most important place in Northern Bright Citadel was definitely the main hall. Following closely behind it was, quick, the mine. The mine was the lifeline of North Ming City. Boom, boom. However, just as Xiao Hao reacted, he vaguely heard endless rumbling sounds. They were heading towards the mine. B asterisk starred. Xiao Hao's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. That person was here to destroy their foundation. The group immediately rushed over. Before they arrived, the rumbling sounds had already stopped. This caused Xiao Hao's heart to sink to the bottom. When he arrived, his expression was extremely ugly. The 130 mines and thousands of veins in front of him had all collapsed. It would take at least a few hundred years to rebuild them. However, there were only 10 years left until the next payment of the 9 Serenities crystals. This meant that Xiao Hao had no choice but to think of ways to purchase the 9 Serenities crystals from other places at a high price. B asterisk starred. Xiao Hao's expression sank. The destroyed North Ming City was enough to give him a headache. Now that even the mine had collapsed, he was in deep trouble. Drip! Suddenly, a photographic jade pendant flew out from one of the collapsed mines. Rays of light shot out from it, forming a portrait of Suyu. Continue. The portrait only spat out 2 words before disappearing. Before Xiao Hao could recover from the damage to the mine, he suddenly heard an ear-piercing explosion. It sounded like the sky was being torn apart. Time in the vicinity of North Ming City rippled like the surface of a lake. Not good. It's a time passageway. Xiao Hao's expression changed. The time passageway was the best transportation tool for shortening distance. If it was damaged, North Ming City would be at least twice as slow as the other cities in the later stages of the war. Stop him. Xiao Hao clenched his teeth and activated the Time Ruler's bloodline, freezing time. Apart from himself and his trusted subordinates, the time in the vicinity of the Northern Ming City had been frozen. However, what made Xiao Hao's heart bleed was he did not hesitate to burn his bloodline, but the tearing sound of the time passageway did not stop. It was as if the other party was completely unaffected by the time realm. When he arrived, Suyu was long gone. All that was left was the completely torn and irreparable time passageway. I'll kill you. Xiao Hao felt like he was going crazy. He finally felt a tinge of regret in his heart. It seemed like he was really wrong. He should not have played tricks on such a mysterious and unfathomable person. Unfortunately, Suyu did not intend to stop. Another projection flickered. Don't stop, let's continue. Xiao Hao crushed the jade talisman and said sternly, Fine, let's have some fun. He shouted in a low voice, Hong Xian, predict where the other party will appear. Biyun Hong Xian had no choice but to open her pair of golden eyes to connect the future and the past. In her vision of the future, she saw Suyu ransacking the treasury of the Great Emperor Palace in North Ming City. How is it? Xiao Hao asked. Biyun Hong Xian wanted to hide it, but it was not realistic. If something was wrong, Xiao Hao would definitely realize that she was lying. Your treasury. What? Xiao Hao was shocked. How do you know where my treasury is? In his treasury, there were many years of resources stored in the Great Hall of North Ming City, as well as countless time crystals. It was by relying on these resources that he could win over countless strong men by his side, who followed him to fight for the world. If the treasury was lost, his foundation would really be damaged. Evil creature. Xiao Hao activated the Time Ruler's bloodline to the extreme and rushed over. This time, he finally arrived. He saw that the door of his great hall had been forcibly closed. The treasury inside had just been opened, and a figure was sweeping away his life's accumulation at an extremely fast speed. Put it down. Xiao Hao roared. Chapter 2662. Suyu looked at him indifferently. With a light tap of his finger, a gust of space energy swept Xiao Hao 1,000,000,000,000 miles away. Before Xiao Hao could return, Suyu kept the space storage device. As for the treasures that he could not take away in time, he squeezed his palm, and the entire space in the treasure vault collapsed. The remaining martial resources were all destroyed. Finally, Suyu took a look at the treasure vault. After making sure that he had taken away everything that he could and destroyed everything that he could not, he flew into the sky and left. When Xiao Hao returned, what he saw was a broken treasure vault. Ah! Xiao Hao could not suppress his anger, and he let out a roar. No matter where you are, I swear I will make you pay. The heavy roar pierced through the sky and swept across the surroundings. Even Su Yu, who was hiding at the edge of Biming City, heard the roar. You? Su Yu laughed as he shook his head. All he had done was to get Xiao Hao to pay back some interest. What he wanted was a price that Xiao Hao could not afford. A few days later, Xiao Hao finally dispatched faction forces from the surrounding territories to repair Biming City. Because the space was distorted, the strong men had to work together to restore the space. The entire process was very slow. It took a whole month for half of Biming City to be restored. The strong men who had been trapped in the great emperor's palace were freed, and all of them were filled with resentment. In the great hall, Xiao Hao's expression was gloomy. Everyone, Biming City, was attacked by an unknown person, and the entire city was almost destroyed. This is an eternal shame for Biming City. You must search the entire city for this person. If you find him, kill him without mercy and inform me immediately. He handed Su Yu's portrait to them. Many strong men immediately dispersed. After they had all left, Xiao Hao's expression became anxious. He asked, Yinran, what happened to the martial resources collected from the various factions? The treasure vault of Biming City had been ransacked. They could not afford to pay the strong men who followed them. Many of the shops in Biming City were still in the distorted space, and they could not collect their resources. They could only forcibly collect them from the treasure vaults of the various factions. Yinran took out a space storage device and handed it to Xiao Hao. Xiao Hao swept his gaze over it and frowned. Only 10 billion worth of resources? What use is that? He had close to 100 underworld lords by his side. 10 billion wasn't even enough for their monthly offerings. Great Emperor, this is already the limit. All the big and small forces are accumulating wealth in preparation to exchange for the dark matter crossing Lotus Throne. It is already very difficult for them to hand over all these. Yinran sighed helplessly. Xiao Hao snorted coldly. What are you talking about? Since they have taken root in my territory, all the resources they earn belong to me. So what if I take a portion of it? Pass down my order. All sects must hand over a third of the treasury's resources. If they don't obey, then this great emperor will come personally. Hearing this, Yinran frowned and advised, Your Majesty, you can't do that. A third of the resources might be enough to decide the life and death of a sect. If the great emperor forcefully collects the resources, it might cause them to rebel. Xiao Hao was unconcerned. Why would I be afraid of their betrayal? Collect them immediately. Although he said that, Xiao Hao understood very well. His actions were harming his own foundation. It was very likely that it would lead to a large-scale rebellion. But he had no choice. If he could not gather enough martial arts resources in a short period of time, at least half of the 100 Path Lords that followed him would be lost. And the most important power in the Time Ruler's fight was the Path Lords around him, not the leaders of the sections. Thus, he could only use this method. All right, Yinran sighed. I will go inform them. Wait. Xiao Hao's eyes flashed. Let Bai Yin Hongxian go with you. Yinran immediately understood Xiao Hao's intention. To monitor her, he was worried that Yinran would pocket a large amount of martial arts resources in the process of collecting the resources. Yinran was unhappy. She said indifferently, Your Majesty, are you suspecting me? Xiao Hao's expression did not change. What are you talking about? I'm just letting Bai Yin Hongxian help you take a look. Yinran clenched her fists. Ever since they returned from the Time Wilderness, Bai Yin Hongxian and her father had brought back close to 20 ruler treasures. Xiao Hao's trust in them grew. On the other hand, due to her concerns, she had only handed over a few. In stark contrast, Xiao Hao's attitude towards her was not as good as before. Your Majesty, I am not your subordinate. I am here to assist you. What good will it do me if I drag you down now? Yinran asked with a burning gaze. Xiao Hao was not angry. I have said that I am not suspecting you. Do as I say at once. Yinran's lips twitched, and she left angrily. Xiaohao stared at her back, his eyes gloomy. Does this woman think I don't know that she secretly hid a ruler treasure and refused to hand it over? Looking at the space storage device in his palm, he became even more suspicious. She only collected 10 billion? It would be strange if you did not embezzle from it. He did not know that there was a faint spatial fluctuation at the place where Yinran had just stood. Outside the Great Hall, in a corner, Yinran clenched her fist, and a space domain appeared in her palm. Yinran's pretty face turned cold when she saw the information within. You were suspecting me. Yinran could not help but think of Suyu's warning that Xiaohao might harm her. She understood Xiaohao's character. He would do anything to achieve his goals. He might even order someone to assassinate her for the remaining ruler treasures in her hands. After thinking for a while, Yinran activated the Jade Talisman to contact Suyu. Senior, can you come out and meet me? Yinran asked. Suyu was in a restaurant, so he replied immediately, time and place. Tomorrow at the city gate, Yinran said. She would set off from the city gate tomorrow to collect martial arts resources for various factions. Before leaving, she wanted to see Suyu again and learn more about what had happened that day. The next day, Yinran left the great emperor's palace alone and headed for the city gate. As soon as she left, Yinran acutely sensed that there was a pair of eyes staring at her from the sky. It was undoubtedly Xiaohao's people who were secretly monitoring her. She was angry, so she used the space domain and left calmly. The next moment, she appeared near the city gate. There was still half an hour left before the appointed time. She leaned against the city wall and pondered quietly. Will Xiaohao really kill me? Or is there a misunderstanding? Yinran thought calmly. If she could confirm the identity of the 3 people who had discussed killing her, then the truth would be revealed. Subconsciously, Yinran still trusted Xiaohao. Chapter 2663. After all, her death would do Xiaohao no good. I'm probably overthinking. Yinran shook her head gently, not allowing herself to think too much. His eyes scanned the surroundings. It's almost the appointed time, right? Senior should be here soon. Suddenly, Yinran sensed that something was wrong with her surroundings. Space has been frozen by a powerful array formation. Yinran's pupil shrank. She tried to use her space domain. In the end, he was unable to activate it all. In the world that ordinary people could not see, Yinran could clearly see a huge crisscrossing net that invisibly covered a radius of 10,000 li. That huge net was a type of seal, and its level was exceptionally high. It repelled the space laws within the area it enveloped, making it impossible to use the space domain. Come out! Yinran's heart sank as she shouted. This was a Dharma treasure that was specially designed to deal with him. He, with a light chuckle, 3 down master experts of different heights, short, fat, and skinny removed their concealment from a certain corner and revealed themselves. His lordship's calculations are indeed flawless. He said that he would find a chance to kill you in the near future, and in the end, you really came. Ado was full of praise. Aer and Asan's eyes shone brightly. After waiting for so many days, he finally found a suitable opportunity to kill Yinran. Who is the lord you're talking about? Yinran asked in a deep voice. The 3 brothers obviously would not say that. They only said ambiguously, you know very well. Yinran was shocked. She knew that Xiaohao was the only one who wanted to kill her. Could it really be Xiaohao? Unfortunately, Aer and Asan didn't give her any time to think. She's already lost her spatial domain. Kill her. Ada charged over first. Aer and Asan attacked from another direction, not giving Yinran any way out. Although Yinran's eyes were filled with fear, she did not panic and appeared to be very calm. Idiot! You think you can kill me just because you've sealed my space domain? Yinran sneered and shook her head. If the descendants of the space sovereign were so easy to kill, they would have been wiped out long ago. Form displacement transposition. Yinran took out a jade statue. The jade carving contained extremely dense spatial energy. As such, Yinran found a power that she could use, and her space domain was naturally more than enough. Under the guidance of the spatial domain, The attacks of the three Earth Lords that dominated the region actually flew towards the three of them. Dodge! Ada bellowed and dodged first. At the same time, he launched a second attack towards Yenran. It was the same for Air and Asan. The three of them had been cultivating together for many years and had experienced many battles, so they were very familiar with such situations. She narrowed her eyes and drew a line around her body with one finger. A ripple of water surrounded his body. The attacks of the three Earth Lords seemed to have fallen into a swamp, unable to advance any further. The descendants of the Chief Sovereign of Space really aren't that easy to kill. Ada growled, "Brothers, don't hold back." At the same time, the three of them took out a Dao artifact that looked like a circular blade. Go! The three Dao artifacts connected in midair, forming a fan-shaped sharp blade. At the same time, the three Dao masters activated their powers at the same time. The combined Dharma treasure of the three Dao artifacts immediately released extraordinary power. Clang! An afterimage flashed by, and the water ripples on Yenron's body were immediately cut open. His figure was immediately cut into two. However, how could the descendants of the Space Dominus be killed so easily? The two halves of the corpse split into countless tiny particles. Then, the two merged into one, forming a complete human silhouette. At her level, any part of her body could turn into spatial dust. Swoosh! However, the combined Dao artifact controlled by the three Earth Lords had earth-shattering power. Crack! Another remnant mark appeared. This time, it wasn't Yenran who was cut, but the jade sculpture in her hand. With a crisp sound, all the spatial energy within it dissipated and was swept away by the sealing formation. This time, Yenran, who had lost her spatial energy, once again lost the ability to control the space domain. Swoosh! The combined Dao artifact slashed by again. This time, Yenron's face turned serious. Without the space domain, if she was cut again, she wouldn't be able to recover. Was she really going to die here? A great sense of danger welled up in her heart. It was the fear of impending death. Just as her heart turned cold, she heard a tinkling sound. The combined Dao artifact was blocked by something. Yenran opened her eyes and was pleasantly surprised. "Senior." So you looked at Air and Asan and said calmly, "Get lost." As he spoke, he activated the giant cauldron formed by the space domain and pressed forward. Even the soul-summoning scholar didn't dare to resist the power of this cauldron, let alone the three of them. Ada and the other two immediately withdrew the combined Dao artifact and looked at the person in front of them in shock. The three of them exchanged glances and secretly discussed how to kill this person together. Suddenly, the three of them received a message from Zhuowei and immediately retreated. This person was very powerful. The three of them immediately left without any hesitation, not wanting to stay any longer. Seeing the three of them escape, Yenron's legs became weak. She leaned on Su Yu's back weakly. She was scared and angry. "Xiaohao, I will never forgive you." There were only two people who knew that she had come here. One was the great Emperor Xiaohao. Before she left, Xiaohao still sent people to monitor her. The other was Senior Su Yu, but he didn't have any reason to kill her. Even if he could kill her, why did he send those three people? If he attacked her himself, Yenran wouldn't be able to survive. So, it could only be Xiaohao. He planned to kill her for the treasure of the Time Master. "It's good that you're fine," Su Yu said calmly. Yenran realized that she was lying on Su Yu's back. She immediately stood up and said gratefully, "Senior, thank you for saving me." If it hadn't been for him, she would have been in danger. Su Yu turned around with a serious look. "Have you found out who is trying to harm you?" Yenran nodded and said with certainty, "It can only be Xiaohao." Her face was ice cold. "I helped him at all costs, but what did I get in the end? I'm really a stupid woman." She laughed at herself. Su Yu was secretly amused. However, his face was solemn. "Don't say that. You were just deceived by a scoundrel. It's not too late to wake up now." Yenran was a loss. "I helped Xiaohao at all costs so that I could have strong support when I fight for the Space Master's position in the future. Now, everything is just empty talk." She looked around and didn't know what to do. A good bird chooses a good tree to nest in. I believe you'll find a more suitable ally, Su Yu said meaningfully. However, he didn't mention the Star Rain Empress. Otherwise, it would easily expose Su Yu's purpose and attract Yinran's attention. Yinran smiled bitterly. Among the 4 descendants of the Time Master in the Dream-Broken Realm, only Xiaohao is a dragon among men. As for the other 3, the Mingxin Great Emperor is controlled by his subordinates. The Waning Moon Empress is fickle, and the Star Rain Empress is a little girl who hasn't grown up yet. Where can I find a good tree? Yinran said helplessly. Chapter 2664. After a pause, Su Yu said, "Is there anything urgent that you want to talk to me about?" Hearing this, Yinran suddenly remembered that she was the one who had summoned Su Yu here. She smiled bitterly. "I wanted to confirm whether Xiaohao wanted to harm me, but now it seems like I don't need to confirm it anymore. If you have nothing else to do, I have a favor to ask of you," Su Yu said slowly. "Senior, please tell me." Su Yu said, "Xiaohao still owes me a ruler treasure that can accelerate time. Can you help me get it?" "Ah." Yinran pointed at herself. "Senior, if I go back, won't I be walking into a tiger's mouth?" Xiaohao had sent someone to assassinate her, so how could she go back? Moreover, she had to steal Xiaohao's most important defensive treasure. No, if Xiaohao wanted to kill you openly, he wouldn't have set up an ambush at the city gate. Su Yu said with fervor, "Rumors are fearful. Xiaohao's people are in a mess now. If he kills you openly, won't the rest of his followers scatter like birds and beasts? So, Xiaohao wouldn't dare to do anything to you openly." The reason why Su Yu was so sure was that he knew Xiaohao didn't intend to kill Yinran. That makes sense. Yinran's beautiful eyes flickered. Her thoughts had been completely led by Su Yu. After thinking for a while, Yinran nodded. "Okay, Senior, you saved my life. I will risk my life to get that ruler treasure that can accelerate time for you. By the way, I can't let Xiaohao get away with it so easily. She had worked so hard for so many years. How could she be willing to let him go just like that? She wanted revenge. Okay, I will wait for you." So you left. Yinran waited there calmly. Before long, Bai Yun and Hong Xian came to meet up with her. Then, they went to visit the various forces. In the past, Yinran had to worry about being betrayed by these forces if she extorted them too harshly. But now, what else did she have to worry about? Every time he went to a sect, he would wantonly demand martial Dao resources, causing those sects to suffer greatly. There are even some small sects that have been blackmailed to the point of closing their doors and disbanding. All the forces in the region were furious. They contacted each other secretly, forming an undercurrent of resistance. When the time was right, they would declare Baiming City's rule and join other cities. Just at this moment, the representatives sent by Empress Star Rain brought even more time than the sects had lost and approached them in secret. One could imagine how smooth the bribing process was. The representatives didn't need to waste their breath and successfully pried away the powerful tunnel master from the sect. They led their own troops and secretly left North Bright City, heading for South Bright City. 1 year later, Xiaohao was very satisfied with Yinran's return with a large amount of resources. "Well done," Xiaohao praised. Although Bai Yun Hong Xian had sent him many messages, Yinran's methods were too intense. However, Xiaohao did not blame him, because he was the one who ordered Yinran to do this. Now, he had hundreds of billions of time crystals worth of martial arts resources in his hands, which was more than enough to raise a large number of people around him. As for those sects that were injured, they would be comforted after they regained their footing. "What reward do you want?" Xiaohao was in a good mood. Yinran shook her head. "I don't want anything. Speak the truth." Xiaohao shouted. "Merits will be rewarded. Mistakes will be punished. You have made such a great contribution. If I don't reward you, who would dare to work for me in the future?" Yinran thought for a moment and said hesitantly, "If the great emperor must reward me, I want to borrow your time, acceleration treasure." Hearing this, Xiaohao's expression froze. This was a defensive treasure given to him by the time ruler. However, he had already said it, and it was difficult to take it back. "Why?" Xiaohao asked as he took it off. Yinran said, "I recently had a new understanding of the space domain, and I need to spend a lot of time cultivating it. After thinking about it, only the great emperor's jade pendant can satisfy me. Hearing this, Xiao Hao was relieved. All right, take it. Xiao Hao handed it to Yin Ran without hesitation. He had many ruler treasures in the wilderness of time, so this treasure that could speed up time was not that important. Moreover, Yin Ran was only borrowing it for a while and would return it to him. Lending it to her was not a big problem. Wait. However, at this moment, the golden pupil scholar, who had his eyes closed, suddenly spoke and stopped him. Yin Ran frowned and glared at him. Xiao Hao retracted his hand and held the treasure again. He asked, "Is there a problem?" The golden pupil scholar said hoarsely, "Great Emperor, this was given to me by the time ruler. How can you give it away so easily? Especially since Miss Yin Ran is so familiar with that mysterious person." Hearing this, Xiao Hao immediately became cautious. He was actually worried about this. He was worried that Yin Ran was connected to that person and would help him cheat the treasure away. He just didn't say it out of trust. He didn't expect the golden pupil scholar to point out. Xiao Hao now had a reason not to give it to Yin Ran. This, Xiao Hao's fake, will hesitated. "Yin Ran, how about this? Tell me when you want to cultivate. I will be by your side and activate this treasure. We can cultivate together. How about that?" Yin Ran's expression was normal. If the great emperor is worried, Yin Ran will respect the great emperor's decision. She hated the golden pupil scholar to the core. Although this old man was blind, his senses were even sharper than Xiao Hao's. She must have unintentionally shown an aura of eagerness for success, and the golden pupil scholar caught it, so he tried to stop her. Her heart was in turmoil. Really, she could have returned to report to Senior Su Yu and left Biming City. It seemed like she had no choice but to resort to this. She returned to her mansion as if nothing had happened and waited for the right time. The best time was when Xiao Hao entered Luoyang to cultivate. At that time, she could use her space domain to steal it. Crash. However, at that moment, a green-clothed figure descended into his mansion. "How dare you come to my mansion?" Yin Ran looked at the woman with hostility. There is only one person who could make her hate him so much. "Bai Yun Hongxian, I am here to save you," Bai Yun Hongxian said calmly. "I advise you not to seek death." Yin Ran's beautiful eyes flickered. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." Bai Yun Hongxian did not say a word. She pointed her finger in the air, and an image appeared in front of her. In the image, Yin Ran stole the great emperor Xiao Hao's space treasure. However, Xiao Hao was prepared. He grabbed her throat and killed her with a hideous smile. Crash! Bai Yun Hongxian withdrew her finger, and the image disappeared. She said calmly, "This is the future scene that I saw." Yin Ran's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Since this woman had seen through her plan, she had no choice but to kill her. If it weren't for Su Yu, I would have already handed over this future scene to great Emperor Xiao Hao. Bai Yun Hongxian looked at Yin Ran with a faint expression. Yin Ran was startled and stood on the spot in silence. Chapter 2665. Yin Ran looked at Bai Yun Hongxian deeply. In the time wilderness, she had seen with her own eyes that this woman seemed to have some connection with Su Yu. Now, it seemed like they had known each other for a long time. "Go ahead." Bai Yun Hongxian tucked her hair behind her ear, and a relieved smile appeared on her face. "If one day my father commits an atrocious crime, please spare my father's life." Yin Ran stared at her and said, "What's the point? Is it worth it?" How could she not know the relationship between Bai Yun Hongxian and her blind father? The blind father had a twisted personality and was very gloomy. Who knew when he would do something crazy? Usually he would scold and beat Bai Yun Hongxian, but Bai Yun Hongxian was very obedient. Yin Ran did not understand. Why would Bai Yun Hongxian plead for this kind of father? After all, he is my father. Bai Yun Hongxian's expression was calm. "Help me pass the message. Within a month, I will think of a way to get that piece of jade." After thinking for a while, she sweetly nodded. "Sure." At that moment, Su Yu was in an inn. In front of him was the 9 nether demonic empress, who had been in closed-door training for many years. "Master, fortunately, I did not fail on my mission and successfully refined the 3 strands of holy demon blood into a Tao artifact." She held 3 snow-white flying needles in her hands. The flying needles contained an incomparably dense cold chi that specialized in restraining souls. Once activated, it could instantly freeze the enemy's soul into ice. Is this a 4.5 doctrine artifact? Suyu muttered to himself. He took one and held it in his palm. Even his soul felt a chill run down his spine. One could imagine what would happen if his soul was injured. If I had refined it earlier, I wouldn't have had to expend so much effort to kill the soul-summoning scholar, Suyu muttered to himself. The 9th Nether Succubus Empress said from the side, 3 flying needles, each one of them capable of killing the soul of an early-stage Dao Lord. If all 3 needles are pierced into the soul of an opponent, even a peak early-stage Dao Lord would have his soul frozen to death. Suyu pondered this for a moment, his eyes flickering as he asked, what if it's a middle-stage Dao Master? The demonic queen of the 9, Nether Demonic Empress, shook her head. I can only heavily injure his soul. It will be very difficult to kill him. After all, it was a half 4-star Dao artifact. Its might was limited. However, it was already quite good for Suyu. This was the first true Dao artifact that he had obtained in his life. Hence, Suyu refined the 3 flying needles right away. You did well, Suyu praised her. Looking at the charm empress of the 9 Nether Demon Empress, he asked, what is your cultivation? The 9th Nether Demonic Empress replied, honestly, peak early stage Earth Lord. Was he on the same level as Fei Yinsheng? No wonder the Demonic Empress of the 9 Nether Demonic Empress had the complete upper hand against the other Tunnel Masters. Take this. Suyu closed his eyes and used all of his power to conjure a transparent pot of water in front of him. It was filled with liquefied primordial chi. When he opened his eyes again, Suyu felt extremely exhausted. The higher the grade of an item, the more soul energy it would consume to create it. This bottle of absolute beginning chi spiritual liquid was too much for him to handle. Primordial chi? The 9 Nether Succubus Empress shrieked, her eyes filled with pleasant surprise. Alpha Origin Chi was the best cultivation tonic for a Path Master. By fusing it into one's body, the primordial Chi could be divided into the Dao Chi needed for one's cultivation level. The Charm Empress of the 9 Nether Demon Empress was from the Corpse Clan, so she could not absorb normal Dao Chi to cultivate. Hence, ever since she was born, the Charm Empress's power had not increased significantly. She had remained at the most basic level. However, the primordial chi before her could be completely transformed into the power she needed. This was what she had always dreamed of. Usually, even a drop of it was precious. But before her was a whole pot of it. Use it to your heart's content. There will be more in the future, Suyu said. Making a pot of it for her every day should be more than enough. The Charm Empress blinked her beautiful eyes and said, Master, when my power increases, I can sneak back into the 9 Nether world and help you bring back that puppet. Puppet? It took Suyu a while to realize that the Charm Empress was talking about the demonic ape puppet. During the Great Battle, the demonic ape puppet had been severely injured and had been lost in the 9 Nether world. That puppet is already damaged, so it should be useless to bring it back, Suyu said, shaking his head. The Charm Empress was surprised. Master, don't you know that it is the ancient god of Jiuyo's secret 9 Nether puppet? How could it be useless? Suyu was stunned. 9 Nether puppet? He only knew that the puppet was called the demonic ape puppet, and it had been gifted to him by Jin Yu, the descendant of the demonic factions Elder Jin and Mo. The 9 Nether puppet has a wisp of the ancient god of Jiuyo's power sealed within it. As long as that power is not destroyed, the puppet can heal itself no matter what kind of injuries it suffers. It can also absorb all kinds of attacks to aid its own growth. Hearing this, Suyu suddenly remembered. The demonic ape puppet had once been shattered by Elder Shao Mo, but it had recovered on its own and run to the Supreme One faction to look for him. The 9 Nether puppet fell into the 9 Nether world, and in that environment, it will definitely absorb energy to evolve on its own. I don't know what level of cultivation it has reached by now, the Charm Empress said. When I am done with my training and am no longer afraid of the Phoenix King, I will help you bring back the 9 Nether puppet. Suyu's eyes were filled with anticipation. All right, go ahead with your training. Look for me when you run out of primordial chi. He didn't know if the puppet would give him any more surprises. He recalled the Charm Empress to train. Suyu secretly familiarized himself with the 3 flying needles. A few days later, he pointed his finger, and the 3 flying needles crisscrossed in the air in mysterious trajectories. He had successfully integrated the magical powers of space and time into the flying needles, making the trajectories of the flying needles even more mysterious and unpredictable, allowing them to hurt the enemy invisibly. After putting away the flying needles, Suyu was about to contact Yanran. A year had passed, and Yanran still had not obtained the treasure that could accelerate time. He might have to go and snatch it himself. At that moment, a message arrived. It was none other than Yanran. After reading the message, Suyu frowned slightly. Bian Hongxian is going to retrieve it herself. Thinking back to her request to let her father go in the future, Suyu suddenly had a bad feeling. Why did it sound like she was leaving behind her last words? After pondering for a while, Suyu made up his mind and immediately sent a message to Yanran. "Where are you?" The reply he received was, "Don't worry, I will get it soon." It seemed that Biyun Hongxian was about to get her, but Suyu really had a bad feeling. At that time, in the Xiaohao Palace, Xiaohao was deep in training. In front of him was an extremely pure, pulse-cleansing divine marrow. Its quantity was even greater than the entire upper palace. Above his head, 2 hourglasses of time were faintly discernible, and the 3rd wheel was quickly taking shape. This was Xiaohao's time realm, which was about to stabilize at the level of a high-level realm. He was only a step away from the highest origin realm. Chapter 2666. Strangely, she completely avoided all the detection fluctuations of the formation. It was as if she had predicted in advance when the fluctuations would be generated and in which direction they would radiate. In this way, as if she had entered an uninhabited land, she came to the vicinity of the secret zone. Beside the pond of the pulse-cleansing divine marrow, Xiaohao's undergarments were all taken off and piled up there. Even the time acceleration treasure that never left Xiaohao's side was there. Because the treasure contained the power of time, it was likely to be affected if it was brought into the pond. The beautiful figure bent down, took the time acceleration treasure in her hand, and walked away calmly. From beginning to end, it did not attract the slightest attention. The person who stole this item was none other than Biyun Hongxian. After several days of careful research, coupled with her divine eyes that could see the future and the past, finally, she succeeded in getting the treasure. She came to a corner of the hall. Yanran flashed out from under the shadow of a tree. Her pretty eyes flashed, and she asked, "Did you get it?" Biyun Hongxian stretched out her hand, and the time acceleration treasure was in the palm of her hand. She looked indifferent. "Give it to Suyu. Perhaps this is the last thing I can do for him." "Huh?" Yanran heard the hidden meaning in her words and was about to ask. Biyun Hongxian urged, "Let's go, my father is coming." She could already sense it without using her divine eyes. Yanran's heart tightened, and she immediately took the time acceleration treasure and left. Sure enough, after half an hour, the golden-eyed Lang Jun came to Biyun Hongxian with the help of a maid on his crutch. "Father," Biyun Hongxian said calmly. The golden-eyed Lang Jun's closed eyes opened slightly, and there was a hint of coldness in his dark eyes. "Who were you talking to just now?" Biyun Hongxian said calmly. "A maid." Unexpectedly, the golden-eyed Lang Jun suddenly slapped her in the face. Biyun Hongxian could have dodged it, but she did not, and took the slap head-on. Immediately, a bloody palm print appeared on her face. "You were seeing Yanran, weren't you?" The golden-eyed Lang Jun shouted. Biyun Hongxian covered her face and did not explain. "You were helping her steal the time acceleration treasure, weren't you?" The golden-eyed Lang Jun asked again. This time, Biyun Hongxian's eyes wavered. She looked at her blind father suspiciously. "How did you know?" Golden-eyed scholar chuckled. "Although my eyes are blind, my heart is not. Yanran has already started to betray us. She is helping that mysterious person to cheat Emperor Xiaohao of his time acceleration artifact." Biyun Hongxian's eyes flashed, but she did not say a word. She was not surprised that her father, who was experienced and astute, was able to deduce this. But it doesn't matter. Golden-eyed Lang Jun suddenly revealed a sinister smile. Hmm? The suspicions in Bai Yun Hong Xian's heart deepened as she faintly felt that something was not right. At this moment, a cold snort filled with suppressed anger came from outside the courtyard. Guarding day and night, it's hard to guard against a thief at home. Bai Yun Hong Xian, I trusted you in vain. In the end, you were the one who hid the most. Bai Yun and Hong Xian were shocked and turned around to look behind them. Xiao Hao, clad in a black cloak, strode over. She had a very bad premonition in her heart and could not help but look at her calm father. Father knows that I am here to steal the treasure? Bai Yun Hong Xian was not worried about her own safety, but Su Yu's. Since both her father and Xiao Hao knew that she was here to steal the treasure, why did they not stop her? Instead, they allowed her to steal the treasure and hand it over to Yanran. There was only one answer. There was something wrong with the treasure. Su Yu was in danger. Her heart tightened, and she immediately took out the communication artifact to send an urgent message to Yanran. However, her palm was inexplicably empty. Looking back, Xiao Hao was still standing in the same place, but in his hand was her communication artifact. Xiao Hao had used the realm of time to snatch the treasure and prevent her from sending the message. Humph, you want to inform them in front of me? You really don't see me as your master. Xiao Hao shouted coldly. Bai Yun Hong Xian bit her red lips, her heart filled with thoughts of Su Yu. She did not care about her own comfort, because she had a premonition of her fate a long time ago. From the moment she saw Emperor Xiao Hao, she knew what would happen to her. She had already accepted her fate and did not care about her life or death. I already knew what you wanted to do. You don't have to pretend to be loyal to me. It was hopeless for Bai Yun Hong Xian to inform Su Yu. It was even more hopeless for her to escape. She might as well confess everything. You want to extract the bloodline of the Time Master in my body to complete your Yuan realm, right? Bai Yun Hong Xian looked at Xiao Hao calmly. Bai Yun Hong Xian's divine eyes contained the bloodline of the Time Master and the Space Master. Like her father, she inherited the bloodline of the Tianyi Empress. The Tianyi Empress was a descendant of the Time Master and the Space Master. She was the only mixed-blood descendant of the Master in the world. Although the power of the bloodline that Bai Yun Hong Xian inherited was not as strong as the Tianyi Empress, it was not weak either. She had already achieved the ability to communicate with the past and the future. If Xiao Hao could obtain her bloodline and use it at a critical moment, he could really break through to the Yuan realm. And the mastermind behind all of this was no one else. It was her father. Not long after meeting Xiao Hao, he sold his only daughter to Xiao Hao. He begged for wealth and glory. The golden-eyed Lang Jun said lightly, "Don't blame me. I still have many great ambitions to accomplish. You have to bear with it." As he spoke, the golden-eyed Lang Jun took out a mirror and slowly shone it at Bai Yun Hong Xian. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded, "Father, if you want me to die, I have no complaints. But please let that person go. I beg you, okay?" She even knelt down. However, the golden-eyed Lang Jun's face was cold. That person is a threat to the great emperor. He must die. Then, he activated the light in the mirror. Under the light, Bai Yun Hong Xian immediately lost consciousness, her eyes empty. Just like in the seven-star civilization, there was a time when Bai Yun Hong Xian lost her sense of self and was like a puppet. The golden-eyed Lang Jun put her in the space storage device and said, "Great Emperor, when the time is right, it will be time for you to break through to the Yuan realm and become a ruler." Xiao Hao nodded slowly and looked in the direction where Yanran had left. "Has the personnel been arranged?" Xiao Hao's eyes flashed with a deep, cold smile. The golden-eyed Lang Jun nodded. "Everything has been arranged. We are only waiting for the great Emperor's order." "Very good." He laughed sinisterly. "I'm afraid you can't afford to play with me." Yanran did not know anything. She held the treasure and left the great Emperor's palace while sending a message to Su Yu. In a restaurant somewhere, when Su Yu received Yanran's message, he did not feel the slightest bit of joy. Instead, his heart sank. He waved his hand, and two lines of fate appeared in front of him. They were his and Yanran's. However, not long after, the two lines of fate began to break. It meant that both of their lives were in danger. Suyu's mind was racing. What was wrong? Where was the danger? Ever since he found out that Bai Yun Hongxian had stolen the treasure, he had been feeling uneasy. Chapter 2667. Is there something wrong with the treasure? Suyu pondered. It could only be the treasure. All the uneasiness was caused by the treasure. If it was an ordinary person, he might hesitate. But Suyu was very decisive. He immediately ordered Yanran, "Stop. Send the treasure back." Yanran, who was on her way, was startled. Why? She could not help but look down at the treasure that could speed up time in her palm. This was indeed the treasure that Xiaohao wore all year round. There was no mistaking it. But because of her trust in Suyu, Yanran did not think for long before turning back. As she left, Suyu found that the uneasiness was gradually weakening. It's really a treasure. Suyu was shocked. He squinted his eyes and muttered, "There are still scheming experts in Baiming City. They have already seen through my plan to steal the treasure that could speed up time." As for Biyun Hongxian, Suyu's heart skipped a beat. If he was not mistaken, she had probably met with misfortune. His heart tightened. "Xiao." Suyu's eyes shone with a cold light as he teleported to the front of Xiaohao's palace. Yanran had already returned to the palace and placed the treasure that could speed up time in the palace where Xiaohao usually met with guests. Then, she quietly came out and met up with Suyu. "Elder, is that treasure dangerous?" Suyu rolled his eyes and said, "Let's stay away from it." Not long after they left in the palace, Xiaohao looked at the sky and smiled. It should be about time, right? The corners of his mouth curled into a cruel smile. It's time to say goodbye to our elusive senior. Boom! A destructive wave suddenly appeared in the world without any warning. A scorching, pungent aura of destruction swept out along with the destructive wave. Xiaohao and golden-eyed Lang Jun were caught off guard. How could they have guessed that Yin Ran would return the treasure midway? The destructive wave attacked indiscriminately, instantly destroying all the seals in Xiaohao's palace. All the walls and houses melted in the wave. Xiaohao and golden-eyed Longjuan's lives were in danger from the impact of the destructive wave. "Great Emperor, follow me." Golden-eyed Longjuan's blind eyes suddenly opened. A pitch-black light pierced through the destructive waves and found a way out. Under its lead, the two of them narrowly avoided the destructive waves that were everywhere. However, the terrifying power contained within the magic treasure was too great. In the end, the two of them were still accidentally swept by it. Xiaohao and golden-eyed Lang Jun were both heavily injured. The latter was still fine, but Xiaohao was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. His entire body exploded, and he was badly mutilated. Even his soul was on the verge of flowing out. Fortunately, they had already left the center of the destructive wave and were no longer in danger. Xiaohao roared as he activated time reversal in an attempt to return his body to its original state. However, there was still a trace of destructive fluctuations in his injuries. As a result, he was unable to recover. "Great Emperor, let's leave this place first," golden-eyed Lang Jun said in shock. Since Yanran had returned, could the mysterious person be far away? Almost at this moment, a cold wind flashed past. Golden-eyed Lang Jun was sent flying with a kick. Then, a man wearing a bamboo hat appeared and stepped on Xiaohao's chest. "Try to trick me?" Suyu's expression was cold. "You're still too young." He reached out and took out a jade box from Xiaohao's body. There was a liquid that was invisible to the naked eye sealed inside. Time reversal water? Suyu recognized it at a glance. He was sure that this was the defensive magic treasure that the Time Master had given to Xiaohao. As for the extremely powerful explosion just now, it shouldn't be it. However, he didn't know its exact origin. After getting what he wanted, Suyu stared at Xiaohao with a murderous look in his eyes. However, when he was about to attack, the time between heaven and earth changed abruptly. A trace of the Time Masters will descend slowly. The competition has not begun. Descendants are not allowed to kill each other. Hearing this, Suyu had to stop. If he continued, the Time Masters would surely descend. "Consider yourself lucky." Suyu snorted. Then, he stared at golden-eyed Lang Jun. "Where's Bai Yin Hongxian?" Golden-eyed Longjuan's face trembled. He did not resist and handed over the space storage device to Suyu. Suyu glanced at it and found that Baiyun Hongxian was indeed in it. Her life was not in danger. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. After getting what he wanted, Suyu did not stay for a moment. He left immediately. When he returned to Nanming City, he would cultivate in peace for another 5 years. Then, the competition for the position of the Time Master would begin. It would not be too late to kill Xiaohao then. Looking at Suyu leaving, Emperor Xiaohao sat up with difficulty. His eyes were full of hatred. Damn it, their exquisite plan had failed at the last moment. Golden-eyed Langjun, I will find a way to get your daughter back, Xiaohao said. Baiyun Hongxian's matter was related to whether his realm could break through to the origin level. Naturally, he had to find a way. Unexpectedly, Golden-eyed Langjun did not panic. He said calmly, "Don't worry, she will come back on her own. However, this person has repeatedly threatened our lives. We have to get rid of him." Xiaohao agreed with him. His eyes were full of murderous intent. "It seems that I have to use some of my hidden power," Xiaohao said coldly. "I did not want to expose it, but you have gone too far. Just as Emperor Mingxin had his own hidden power, how could Xiaohao not have it? The power that he had displayed was far more than what was shown on the surface." Swish! He took out a mirror. In the mirror, there was a hideous shadow that was struggling. In the hand of the shadow was a 9-colored ruler. If Suyu was here, he would definitely recognize it. This ruler was none other than a replica of the Emperor ruler. The shadow inside was undoubtedly a part of Prince Xiaoyao. During the great battle in the Outer Realm, Suyu had used the 8 great realms to break Prince Xiaoyao's pavilion into countless pieces and sealed them in his 30-foot small world. Then he broke them up, and the fragments of the small world fell in all directions of the 8-star civilization. Unexpectedly, Xiaohao had obtained one of them, and it was a very important part of it. Go kill someone. Under Xiaohao's command, the shadow lacked its own will and was very obedient to Emperor Xiaohao. It leaped out of the fragment and chased after Suyu with the replica Emperor ruler. When Suyu was about to leave the city, he met up with Yanran. "Senior, where are you going from now on?" Yanran asked. Suyu said calmly, "I'm going to the south to have a look. There is a region there where the ruins of the ancient god Julong once appeared." Yanran's eyes lit up. "Senior, if you lack manpower, Yanran can do it for you." This was exactly what Suyu wanted. What he wanted was to bring Yanran back to the south of the dream-broken world. "All right, you will stay by my side for the time being and act as my assistant," Suyu said. Suddenly, Suyu's heart moved. He grabbed the air with his palm, and a broken line of fate appeared in front of him. That was his line of fate. It had been broken before, and it had not been reconnected because he had discovered the conspiracy of the treasure. His heart skipped a beat. The real threat was not the treasure, but something else. Chapter 2668. You go first. If I return to the southern part of the dream-broken realm, I'll look for you again, Suyu said in a deep voice as he stared ahead. Yanran frowned. Her lines of fate had already overlapped, so there was no danger to her life at all. However, she could faintly feel that danger was approaching. That was a danger she could not contend against. After taking a look at Suyu, Yanran nodded and said, "Senior, be careful. If she stayed, she would only be a burden to Suyu. So, it would be better for her to leave first and wait for him in a safe place." Suyu chose a different direction from her and sped away. However, the rupture on the line of fate was growing deeper and deeper, indicating that danger was still rapidly approaching. Suyu's heart sank, and he stopped in his tracks. Since he couldn't avoid it, he would take the initiative to face it. He made a grabbing motion, and 3 flying needles floated in his palm. Then he took out the Divine 9 Dragons Cauldron and ordered it to circle around him, ready for battle. Chila! Suddenly, a 9-colored ruler's shadow that covered the sky and oppressed the heavens, and the earth suddenly appeared from the boundless distance, and it pressed down with a might to destroy the heavens and the earth. Wherever the ruler's shadow passed, everything turned into dust. Even the powerful space enchantment of the 8-star civilization was broken, revealing the nothingness of the outside world. Before the ruler's shadow arrived, its power had already erupted. Prince Xiaoyao's replica ruler. Su Yu's pupils contracted. With a single glance, he could tell where the attack came from. It was the peerlessly powerful replica of the ruler of heaven. However, weren't Emperor Xiaoyao and his emperor's ruler sealed in a three-zhong small world? So you had no time to think. The ruler's shadow pressed down, and he found it extremely difficult to breathe. The emperor's ruler was outside the region and was restricted by the space outside the region. Although its power was unparalleled, so you could still deal with it. But at this time, the power of the emperor's ruler was not restricted, and it was more than twice as powerful as before. Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Su Yu shouted as he slapped the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron 8 times consecutively, displaying the human ancestor's mortal life cauldron suppression technique. 8 dragon roars resounded, and the divine cauldron spun in midair, turning into a giant cauldron that covered the sky and pressed down from the sky. Creak! The ear-piercing sound of metal cutting echoed throughout the world. When the two came into contact, astonishing sparks erupted, and the friction produced intense world-destroying lightning. Hum! With a soft sound, the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron was bounced off by the ruler's shadow and pressed down again. Su Yu put his palms together, his 10 fingers rotating. The 8 domains quickly entered the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. The divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron and the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron, which could suppress the 4 dimensions of heaven and earth, suppressed each other from the left and right. Bang! The ruler's shadow was finally suppressed fiercely. When it reached Su Yu's face, it was completely suppressed. It directly cut through the earth, revealing a deep and invisible void. However, Su Yu did not feel relaxed at all, because the true danger had yet to arrive. In front of his eyes, a broken arm holding the ruler charged over with layers of black shadows. The emperor's ruler slashed down again. Su Yu's eyes flickered, and he immediately activated the 2 giant cauldrons. At the same time, he clenched his fists and shouted, "Thought becomes real." Chi! Between his palms, a ruler that looked exactly the same appeared. In the blink of an eye, Su Yu held the emperor ruler in his hand and swept it horizontally. Bang! A ruler shadow that pierced through the heavens slashed down. The 2 ruler shadows collided with each other under the vast sea with the power to destroy the world. Bang! One of the ruler's shadows was shattered, and the other shadow was deflected, brushing against the corner of Baiming City. A shockwave like an explosion shook the entire North Ming City. Countless weak creatures turned into a mist of blood and died on the spot. Many strong men felt their hearts ache, and their bodies were injured. Fear enveloped Baiming City in an instant, causing the strong men to flee in panic. In the ruins of the Great Hall, the heavily injured Xiaohao was slowly recovering from his injuries when he suddenly saw 2 ruler shadows intersecting in the sky. He could not help but jump in fright. The soul dominators, a thought becomes real. Xiaohao recognized it with a glance, his expression grave. Wasn't the soul summoning scholar already killed? How could someone still use a thought becomes real? Suddenly, Xiaohao thought of Su Yu. It seemed like Su Yu was also proficient in illusion techniques. Who is he? Xiaohao's eyes were filled with deep shock. He finally realized that he had unintentionally provoked an extremely terrifying existence. He looked at the ruins of the Great Hall, at the dilapidated Baiming City, and at the seething resentment of the people. A trace of regret sprouted in his heart. If he had listened to Yanran that day and kept his promise to hand the time acceleration treasure to that mysterious person, how could he have ended up like this? But there was no use in regretting now. Looking at the increasingly intense battle, Xiaohao slowly retreated with the help of the golden-eyed Langjun. There is no need to struggle. It will not stop unless you die, Xiaohao said softly, then quietly escaped with the golden-eyed Langjun. Back to Su Yu. The emperor's ruler in his palm had only been able to strike once before it was shattered. He had no choice but to use it a second time. Together with the 2 cauldrons, he continuously resisted the emperor's ruler. If this was a normal battle, perhaps both sides would have stopped fighting long ago, as no one could defeat the other. but his opponent had a tireless arm, as well as a powerful emperor's ruler. Once, twice, thrice. After the 10th time, Su Yu's soul power was already showing signs of exhaustion. In the end, he could not even use the emperor's ruler. Black Feather Gate. Su Yu roared. A pitch-black gate covered in feathers appeared in front of him. Boom! The shadow of a knife slashed down and landed on the giant gate, causing the whole gate to tremble. The emperor's ruler forcibly opened the gate, revealing the aura of the 9 serenities world within. Seeing that the giant gate was about to be forcibly opened, the black feathers on it emitted layers of black flames. It was the divine fire of the 9 serenities. As soon as the divine fire appeared, it melted the shadow of the ruler. Su Yu's eyes lit up, and he immediately urged the black feather gate forward. The emperor's ruler seemed to have met its nemesis. Any shadow of the ruler that landed on the black feather gate was melted away. Divine 9-Dragon Cauldron, Domain Cauldron, go! Under his control, the 3 of them advanced together, continuously suppressing the unparalleled power of the emperor's ruler. Finally, the 3 of them completely suppressed the emperor's ruler along with the arm. At this moment, Su Yu was exhausted. He could not even use the extra mysterious path power. Looking at the severed arm and the emperor's ruler, he could not help but reveal a look of fear. The emperor's ruler, which had returned to an 8-star civilization, was too powerful. This was after Prince Xiaoyao had been broken into countless pieces and scattered all over the place. How terrifying would it be if the first clone of Prince Xiaoyao was reformed? Phew! Su Yu heaved a long sigh of relief. Just as he was about to say something, his gaze suddenly froze, and he looked at the severed arm again. He saw that in the severed arm, there was a drop of 9-colored blood left behind. That was the blood of the Emperor of the Stone embryo. Prince Xiaoyao had left a total of 10 drops of blood in the first clone. Chapter 2669. A sense of extreme danger surged in Su Yu's heart. Even his soul was incomparably cold. This was a situation that he had rarely encountered in his life. Every time, it was a narrow escape from death. His eyes suddenly sharpened, and without thinking, he immediately used the power of space to sweep away the drop of Emperor's blood. He must not let it touch the Emperor's ruler. However, it was still a step too late. Only half of the drop of Emperor's blood was swept away, and the other half was still on the Emperor's ruler. Suddenly, a primordial power erupted from the Emperor's ruler. The Black Feather Gate, the Divine 9-Dragon Cauldron, and the Realm Cauldron were all shaken away. Among them, a deep dent was left on the Black Feather Gate. The Realm Cauldron was shaken away and turned into realm light. Even the Divine 9-Dragon Cauldron was roaring, and the crystal dragons on it were all dim. The 9-colored light of the Emperor's ruler was so bright that it was difficult to open one's eyes. Su Yu felt like he was a small boat in the middle of a storm. He could capsize at any time. At this critical moment, Su Yu could no longer hold back. He took out a ring-shaped treasure on the spot. This was the treasure of the Time Wilderness, and it was a defensive type. As soon as the ring was taken out, it erupted with defensive power at the level of the Heaven Lawmaster. The ring spat out a cloud of mist, which enveloped Su Yu. Boom! The shadow of the ruler arrived and bombarded him. The extremely dazzling ruler shadow broke through the clouds and mist. But the mist also offset most of the shadow of the ruler, causing it to shrink. When it reached Su Yu's body, there was only a thin layer left. But even so, it instantly crushed Su Yu into pieces. His life was instantly ended. The Emperor's ruler sensed it and slowly left. Not long after it left, the particles reformed into Su Yu's form. However, it was different from the previous resurrection. His reborn body was actually mixed with multicolored spots of light. His body seemed to be mixed with a handful of colorful sand, which was particularly strange. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to recognize Su Yu's race. Su Yu's face was gloomy. Looking at the strange state of his body, his heart was even heavier. These colorful particles were the residual power left in his body when the Emperor's ruler cut his body. Because of the existence of these particles, his body could not completely heal. What was even worse was that his cultivation and domain had been affected by the residual power and couldn't be used. However, the most troublesome thing was that his body faintly showed signs of cracking again. He had to find an external force to dispel the remaining power in his body. Otherwise, he wouldn't live for long. His body was restricted by these powers and could not use resurrection again. That meant that he would really disappear from this world. He gritted his teeth and quickly left this place. Such a huge commotion would definitely attract many experts. Not to mention that Xiaohao would send someone to investigate. As expected, in the time it took to brew a cup of tea after he left, several Dao Lord experts arrived. The leader of the group was none other than golden-eyed Lang Jun. He closed his eyes and asked in a deep voice, "Is he not dead?" Perhaps the others thought that Su Yu would definitely die, but Bureau Chief Jin Tonglang had an intuition. Su Yu was not dead. The investigating tunnel masters said slowly, "There's a large amount of life force left in this place, and there are no remains of that person. It can be confirmed that the other party faked his death and deceived the ruler." The golden-eyed scholar laughed hoarsely. "Then what are we waiting for? If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse." The few tunnel masters nodded and carefully investigated the surroundings. Very quickly, they found a row of bloody footprints. Dongfang chase. A group of people followed the bloody footprints and gave chase. At one point, they chased all the way to a river 10,000 miles away. By the river, a cow with blood-stained boots tied to its hind hooves was drinking water as if no one else was around. Seeing this, the few tunnel masters immediately understood. "We've been tricked," they said in a low voice. This was a smokescreen that Su Yu had given them. The real Su Yu had no idea where he was going. "Search carefully. This person should be seriously injured." The golden-eyed scholar was blind, but his observation skills were even stronger than the tunnel masters. "Why are you so sure?" The golden-eyed scholar laughed. "Because if he was not seriously injured, why would he need to use a smokescreen?" That was true. With the power of that mysterious person, he would only use such a method if he was seriously injured. "Search!" The tunnel masters not only searched on their own, but also mobilized the guards of Baiming City to search everywhere. Su Yu had returned to Baiming City, wrapped in a black robe. He knew that outside of Baiming City, it was all wilderness and forest. It would be easier to find a person that way. On the other hand, Baiming City was easier to hide in. But even though Baiming City was huge, where could he hide? The current him did not have an ounce of Xian energy in his body. He could not even use the most basic form of communication. Otherwise, he could still contact Yanran and have her come back to fetch him. After walking for a while, Su Yu leaned against the wall weakly. His body was swollen and painful. That was a sign that the power of the Emperor's ruler was about to destroy his body. Su Yu laughed bitterly. How long had it been since he had been in such a state? The last time was in the Jiuzhou continent, when he had turned into a white-haired old man. Apart from the pain, Su Yu's soul felt a deep sense of exhaustion. He had overexerted his soul before, and now the repercussions were finally showing. His eyelids grew heavier and heavier. Finally, he could not help but lean against the wall and fall asleep. After an unknown period of time, Su Yu felt a warmth on his body and could not help but wake up from his dream. Out of years of vigilance, he stood up and swept his palms around his body. "Creator, it's me." Su Yu immediately woke up and immediately stopped. When he opened his eyes, it was when Shui. She was using warm water to wipe Su Yu's body. "It's you?" Su Yu suddenly realized. When Shui was created by Su Yu, and he was her creator, she could feel Su Yu's existence even without a message. She probably sensed that Su Yu was in danger and went out to look for him. "Creator, please lie down. My husband has gone out to look for medicine to remove the remaining power in your body." Su Yu looked down, and the 9-colored light spots on his body had obviously dissipated by more than half. "How long have I been asleep?" "A year." Su Yu was shocked. He had been asleep for such a long time. Then, did when Shui's husband treat her for a year before the power of the Emperor's ruler was weakened? Calming his emotions, Su Yu said, "Thank you. It's my duty. The Creator has given me everything." When Shui was as gentle as water. Su Yu looked at her and sighed slightly. He had given Wen Shui life and soul only to let her keep the white feather gate. Therefore, when he created her, he did not give her enough life. According to the time, she had less than 5 years left to live. What would she do in 5 years? For martial cultivators, it was over in the blink of an eye. Have you ever blamed me? So you asked. Chapter 2670. Wen Shui shook her head with a smile. No, on the contrary, I'm very grateful to you, Creator. You gave me a part of my life, a memory of being born as a spirit, a warm and touching moment. Wen Shui's face was filled with contentment and happiness. Thank you, Creator. So you had mixed feelings. Are you satisfied so easily? So you asked. Wen Shui said gently, I met the most right person in my short life. Why wouldn't I be satisfied? The most right person? Does she mean her husband? Suyu really wanted to meet her husband. At this moment, a gentle smile came from outside the door. Wen Shui, I have bought the herbs. Go and boil them. Wen Shui stood up with a smile and looked at the young man who walked in with affection. However, when the latter saw Suyu sitting on the bed, his pupils constricted involuntarily. Then the smile on his face froze. Wen Shui, go and boil the herbs. I want to have a talk with the Creator, her husband said. Wen Shui looked back and forth between the two of them and said with a smile, you two will get along well. When she went out, however, her husband pulled out the axe from his waist and stood in front of Suyu. Suyu, what did you say to Wen Shui? Suyu looked at him calmly without fear. Be slave king, the world is really small. The fiendish criminal who was suppressed in the Light Palace back then was unexpectedly Wen Shui's husband. Life was unpredictable. Suyu, don't think I won't kill you. The beast slave king clenched the axe tightly, and a murderous look appeared on his face. Suyu said calmly, if you wanted to kill me, you would have done a long time ago. Why wait until now? The beast slave king snorted and put away the axe slowly. I should have killed you a long time ago. The beast slave king didn't expect Wen Shui's creator to be Suyu, who had a grudge against him in the past. It wasn't until Wen Shui carried Suyu back from the street that he saw the real creator. The beast slave king wanted to kill Suyu immediately. However, Wen Shui took good care of Suyu, her expression filled with worry and concern. Therefore, he couldn't bear to kill Suyu. He was afraid that if he killed Suyu, Wen Shui would be sad and cry. I'll have to thank you for showing mercy. As Suyu stood up, he felt that his body had become much lighter, and he could faintly feel a wisp of mysterious energy flowing within his body. It was enough to open a spatial storage device or send a message. The beast slave king warned, don't tell Wen Shui about my past, otherwise I'll make you regret it. As a matter of fact, so you could open the space storage artifact and summon the charming Empress of the Nine Nether to kill her. But he didn't. Don't worry, I'm still waiting for you to save me, Suyu said expressionlessly. Only then did the beast slave king feel relieved. He looked at the beautiful figure outside the house, his eyes filled with tender affection. After hesitating for a while, he said, since Wen Shui saved you, can you extend her life? How could the beast slave king not notice that Wen Shui's life force was almost depleted? Suyu shook his head slowly. Her life was created by me with the domain of life, and it will eventually dissipate. Life forms that asked for water were different from real living beings. There was no way to prolong one's life, let alone resurrection. Can't you create another one? The beast slave king said excitedly. He didn't want to be separated from Wen Shui. Suyu's face was gloomy. Yes, I can even create a person who is exactly like her, with the same soul and the same body. But it won't have any memory of Wen Shui. Hearing this, the beast slave king's legs trembled, and he held onto the table weakly. Are you sure you want me to create another one? Suyu asked. The beast slave king's face turned pale, and he shook his head resolutely. No, the only thing in my heart is the smile of the person on the riverbank. To him, the newly created Wen Shui was just a puppet. Suyu nodded with a complicated expression. Then spend the next 5 years with her. 5 years was not a long time, even for ordinary people. In the blink of an eye, it was the time of life and death. Thank you. The beast slave king lowered his head and said, Thank you for leaving Wen Shui in this world. Suyu looked over and found that the Beast Slave King's face was covered in tears. Those were tears of sorrow. How happy he was today. How cruel he would be in 5 years' time. Suyu frowned slightly. If one day he could cultivate all of his domains to the origin level, maybe he could recreate the Wen Shui of today. But that was still a long way off. Perhaps the Beast Slave King couldn't wait for that day to come. Creator, can you get out of bed? Wen Shui finished brewing the medicine, and she smiled delightedly. Suyu nodded. My body is fine now. He glanced at Wen Shui, and then took out a Dominator's treasure. It was the lowest level Dominator's treasure, but it was still at the level of the Heavenly Law Master. Beast Slave King, take this, I hope you can use it. He handed it to the Beast Slave King. The Beast Slave King scanned it with his consciousness, and he couldn't help but be moved. After understanding its use, he handed it back decisively. I don't need it. Suyu took it back with a poker face and said, well, if you need it, come to me again. After saying that, he looked at Wen Shui deeply and said, take care. He swore in his heart that from now on, he would never create another creature easily. Never. Creator, please don't go out. People are looking for you outside, Wen Shui said. Suyu said calmly, don't worry, for now. No one knows my true appearance. He had been facing the outside world with a bamboo hat, so Xiaohao and the others only knew about the mysterious man, but they didn't know Su Yu's true appearance. However, as they were talking, a group of people surrounded the house where they were. My lord, this is the family that has been buying medicine to remove injuries from this small shop for the past year. A shopkeeper nodded and bowed as he led the way. Behind him, there were 4 tunnel masters. One of the tunnel masters was as powerful as Fei Yunsheng. Is that so? The tunnel master took a step forward, and the wall of the house collapsed. He glanced around, and his gaze landed on the medicine that was being fried in the corner of the yard. A house of 3 people has been using medicine to remove injuries for a whole year. The tunnel master at the peak of the early stage looked at Su Yu and the others with a faint smile. Among you, who needs to recuperate? Wen Shui's face turned pale, and she couldn't help but lean into the arms of the Beast Slave King. She was immortal, and the invisible pressure of the tunnel master had an indescribable deterrent effect on her. The Beast Slave King hugged Wen Shui nervously. His cultivation was far from enough to fight against the tunnel master. Su Yu sighed softly and took a step forward. He said, it's me. The tunnel master's gaze swept over like lightning, as if he wanted to pierce through Su Yu's body. Your body is a little strange, the tunnel master said slowly. With a tap of his foot, a majestic force brushed past Su Yu's shoulder and tore his sleeve open, revealing the skin underneath. A few spots of 9-colored light could be seen clearly. The tunnel master's pupils shrank, and he was ecstatic. It's really you. I actually found you. Chapter 2671. The entire Beiming city was searching for Su Yu. This was because Xiaohao had issued a huge reward. Anyone who found Su Yu would be rewarded with a treasure that belonged to the Time Master. Who would not be tempted by the rewards today? Not only did Xiaohao's people join in the search, even unrelated people were mobilized. They had thought of every possible way to find the place where Su Yu could possibly be hiding. The peak early-stage Earth Master before them was one of the smarter ones. Since Su Yu was injured, he would need to use a large amount of medicine. Thus, he had sent people to watch the medicine store. Over the past year, they had found many suspicious people, but they had all been captured. Now, they had finally found the wanted person. Surrender yourselves. I can make it easier for you, the Earth Master said excitedly. Su Yu's expression was calm. There was not the slightest bit of panic or unease. Sure. Su Yu did not resist, allowing them to suppress him. Ha ha ha. The peak early-stage Earth Master could not help but laugh, even though he did not understand why Su Yu did not resist. But it would be best if Su Yu was willing to surrender. I'll go with you. Su Yu was very obedient. He did not want to resist, as that would implicate Wen Shui. It would not be too late to resist after leaving this place. But the peak early-stage Earth Master turned to look at Wen Shui and the Beast Slave King his gaze cold. "These two are harboring a wanted criminal. Kill them." "Yes." A few guards immediately rushed out from behind him and charged towards the two of them. The beast's slave king clenched his teeth, taking out the axe at his waist, protecting Wen Shui behind him. "Don't come over." But his roar was like an ant's resistance in front of the guards, not even the slightest bit of respect. The three guards had cold expressions, immediately taking action. But at that moment, a purple light suddenly flashed past. It was Su Yu, who had opened his space storage device and released the little Kylan. The little Kylan spat out a green flame, burning the three guards into ashes. Seeing this, the several Earth Masters frowned. The peak early-stage Earth Master reacted quickly, whipping towards Su Yu's head, wanting to beat him half to death and prevent him from continuing to open his space storage device. This was to prevent him from releasing anything dangerous. Unexpectedly, just as he stretched out his hand, a small palm print was imprinted on it. Rub, rub, rub. The peak early-stage Dao Lord was forced back by the palm strike. So you took a closer look and released a second person from his space storage device. It was a young girl wearing a bamboo hat. She was very petite, but there was not the slightest trace of a living person's aura on her. This person isn't simple. Attack! The early-stage Peak Path Master had been wondering why Su Yu had allowed himself to be captured so easily. It turned out that this person had other plans. Two Tunnel Masters rushed over and joined forces with him. The might of the attacks of the three Dao Masters could be imagined. It was impossible for the bamboo-hatted girl to withstand it alone. However, what caused the corners of the mouths of the three Path Masters to twitch violently was that Su Yu rubbed the space storage device. In the end, an even more powerful 9 Serenity's demon appeared. After the latter appeared, he joined forces with the bamboo-hatted girl to launch a counterattack. The bamboo-hatted girl and the 9th Nether Demonic Empress were both Earth Dao Masters at the peak of the early stage. How could the other 3 Earth Dao Masters possibly contend against them? In a single exchange, 2 of the Tunnel Masters were killed. As for the early stage Peak Earth Lord, he was injured by the palm strike. The 2 of them joined forces to kill him. The latter's eyes flickered, and he immediately fled. "Forget it, don't chase after him," Su Yu said to stop them. Their top priority was not to kill the Earth Dao Master, but to safely escort him Wen Shui and the Beast Slave King out of Biming City. They could not stay here any longer. Su Yu looked at Wen Shui and the Beast Slave King apologetically. "I did not want to disturb your lives, but now it looks like you have to come with me." He would rather not resist and allow them to capture him, as he did not want to implicate them. However, things did not go as he wished. The 9th Nether Demonic Empress took action, quickly bringing them away from Biming City. The time channel had already been destroyed, and Su Yu could not use the space domain. He could only rely on the 9th Nether Demonic Empress cultivation to bring the group on a long journey. A day later, they left Biming City and arrived at the territory of the Earth Dao Masters. However, the number of pursuers from Biming City continued to increase. Among them were powerful fighters like the 9th Nether Demonic Empress. "Master, it might be difficult for us to escape," the 9th Nether Demonic Empress said. Su Yu frowned slightly. He pointed at the injuries on his body. "With your strength, how long will it take for you to expel the remaining energy in my body?" "Half a day is enough," the 9th Nether Demonic Empress said confidently. The remaining energy in Su Yu's body had already been cleansed by Wen Shui for half a year. Coupled with the fact that the 9th Nether Demonic Empress had absorbed an entire pot of absolute beginning liquid, her strength had improved significantly. Only then could she succeed in half a day. However, the other party might not even need half a day to successfully catch up. The 9th Nether Demonic Empress was worried. To expel the remaining energy, a very quiet environment was required. They did not have such conditions at the moment. Su Yu looked at Wen Shui and the Beast Slave King. "This place has already left the danger zone. You should hide yourselves." Those people were here to kill Su Yu. As long as Wen Shui and the Beast Slave King hid their identities, they would not be in any danger. "Creator, please allow me to go through thick and thin with you." Su Yu shook his head lightly, glancing at the Beast Slave King beside her. Cherish the people in front of you. As he spoke, he waved his sleeves, and a tornado swept the two of them to the ground. Under the protection of the charming Empress of the Netherworld, he continued forward, drawing away a large number of enemies. Master, we can only give it a try. The ninth Nether Demonic Empress had no other choice. Only when Suyu's body recovered and he was able to use the space domain could he possibly escape from the overwhelming pursuit behind him. Suyu nodded. It doesn't matter. Even if he could recover a tenth of his strength, he would be able to activate an attack-type sovereign treasure and escape from danger. Hence, the Phantom of the Nine Serene Demons brought Suyu with her as they escaped, while taking the risk to treat Suyu's injuries. If he were to be interfered with midway, it would result in the uneven control of his power, and it was very likely that the residual power would be stimulated. As a result, Suyu is severely injured, which made his situation even more dangerous. But he had no other choice now. At that time, after when Shui and Beast Slave King landed, they immediately hid themselves. The Beast Slave King heaved a sigh of relief. He was safe for now. The Beast Slave King could not help but feel his scalp go numb when he thought about how he had been attacked by a group of tunnel masters. As he thought about the two underworld masters that Suyu had summoned, as well as the small Kylan, a bitter smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. It should be said that he was not being merciful to Suyu. Instead, Suyu had spared his life out of respect for Wenshui. Otherwise, he would have been dead by now. Chapter 2672. My husband, you should hide yourself. Wenshui stood up suddenly. The Beast Slave King was startled. Wenshui, what are you doing? You'll be discovered. With the strength of those Earth Lords, they would be able to detect any slight movement. Wenshui said sadly, I only have 5 years left to live. I'll die sooner or later. It's my honor to die for the Creator. The Beast Slave King had mixed feelings. He knew that half of Wenshui's heart belonged to him, and the other half belonged to the Creator. Wenshui, the enemies who are chasing after the Creator are too powerful. You can't do anything, the Beast Slave King advised. However, he did not expect Wenshui to take out a human skin mask. After it covered his face, he could see that it was Suyu. At the same time, she stretched out her palm. Husband, give me my bundle. Their important belongings had always been stored in the Beast Slave King's interspatial storage device. The Beast Slave King took it out in confusion. Wenshui opened it and took out a set of clothes, shoes, and even a wig that were exactly the same as Suyu's. She put them on skillfully. At first glance, Wenshui looked exactly like Suyu except for their auras. Finally, Wenshui took out a jade bottle that was glittering with 9 colored light spots from the bag. She collected all the 9 colored power that had washed off Suyu's body over the years. She opened the bottle cap and poured the water all over herself. Wenshui, you are crazy. The Beast Slave King finally understood what she meant. Wenshui looked at the Beast Slave King affectionately and said with a smile, My husband, I'm very happy to have you in this life. Please find another woman to love in the future. The Beast Slave King grabbed her wrist and was about to stop her. However, Wenshui opened her palm and blew on it gently. A mass of white powder flew out and sprayed on the Beast Slave King's face. As a result, the Beast Slave King fell into a coma. The white powder was given to her by the Beast Slave King to protect herself. When the Beast Slave King was not around, Wenshui could use it to subdue the enemy if someone approached. However, the Beast Slave King did not use it on the enemy. I'm sorry, my husband. Wenshui squatted down and kissed his forehead gently. Then, she turned around and ran in another direction. It turned out that when she had rescued Suyu, she had already anticipated that such a day would come. Therefore, for the past year, she had been preparing for this day. He didn't expect it to come so soon. However, she was still very brave and chose to sacrifice herself for Suyu. Several hours passed. That early stage peak Earth Lord followed the remnant power of the Son of Heaven's ruler and charged over. Just as he was about to give chase, his eyes suddenly flashed, and he looked in another direction. After pondering for a moment, he said, I'll go in this direction. You guys continue forward. The aura of the rulers might have appeared in both directions. He couldn't let either of them go. The direction he chose was the direction that Wen Shui escaped in. It was impossible for a mortal to escape too far. It only took him 2 hours to find Su Yu. However, all he found was Su Yu's torn and blood-stained clothes. He's dead? The early-stage peak Dao Lord frowned slightly. He grabbed at the air and grabbed Su Yu's clothes, then muttered, "It's really Su Yu's aura." Looking at the vast and boundless lake in front of him, the early-stage peak Dao master snorted coldly. "You deserve a quick death." After saying that, he turned around and left. Not long after, a head emerged from the lake's shore. It was Wen Shui. Although she was determined to sacrifice herself for Su Yu, she wasn't foolish enough to throw her life away in vain. She got up and shook off her drenched clothes, muttering to herself, "I guess I've already bought some time for the Creator." But all of a sudden, a gentle breeze blew over. Wen Shui felt the chill and couldn't help but shiver. Turning her head to look, her heart skipped a beat, because there was a figure reflected in front of her. It was the early-stage peak Dao master who had returned. His face was cold, like Brahma staring at a speck of dust. "You think you could deceive me?" Which of those who could cultivate to the level of Dao master wasn't extremely cunning? Wen Shui was too naive and underestimated the Dao master's intelligence. The other party easily tricked her out of the water. However, Wen Shui wasn't afraid. She had already seen through life and death. What was there to be afraid of? "Creator, I hope you're safe." Wen Shui didn't even look at the early-stage peak Dao master. Instead, she clasped her hands together in front of her chest and prayed inexplicably. The Dao master's eyes were cold. A ripple of light flickered past, and Wen Shui stood rooted to the ground, unable to move. She maintained her posture, and there was even a serene smile on her face. However, her life had already withered. Not a single trace of it was left. On the other side, with the demonic queen of the 9 serenities personally taking action, the remnant power retreated quickly. Before long, Su Yu was able to use some of his strength. Another 2 to 4 hours should be more than enough. However, at this moment, a large group of Dao masters caught up from behind. A large group. There were as many as 30 of them. The only fortunate thing was that the early-stage peak Dao master wasn't among them. "Come out." Su Yu summoned the bamboo-hatted young lady. With her abilities, she should be able to deal with more than 30 people. The bamboo-hatted young lady brought up the rear, killing anyone who came near. The demonic queen of the 9 serenities seized every second to help Su Yu dispel the remnant power in his body. Time passed bit by bit. The bamboo-hatted young lady and the Dao masters behind her were locked in battle. Her abilities were far superior to the other parties. However, the other party had too many people. Moreover, as they discovered that Su Yu was right in front of them, they were eager to contribute and charged forward fearlessly. This made it difficult for the bamboo-hatted young lady to deal with them. The portion of Su Yu's soul in her body was being depleted at an alarming rate. In another cup of tea's time, the portion of her soul would be exhausted. At that time, no one would be able to act as their trump card. 1 joystick's time passed. 2 joystick's time passed. Finally, the bamboo-hatted young lady had reached her limit. Fortunately, the remnant power in Su Yu's body had been dispelled by more than half. In a short while, he could successfully use 1/10 of his strength to activate the Time Master's treasure. However, at this moment, an extremely swift and fierce figure took advantage of the bamboo-hatted young lady's weakness to launch a sneak attack from behind. Bang! The young lady was sent flying. With no more protection behind the demonic queen of the 9 serenities, the figure turned and attacked her from behind. The demonic queen of the 9 serenities was shocked, but she could not stop healing Su Yu's injuries. With her own body, she took the blow head-on. Puff! A ball of warm blood sprayed all over Su Yu's face. This caused his handsome face to reveal an indescribable evilness. "You can't escape." The attacker was the early-stage peak Dao master who had caught up. With a hideous laugh, he reached out to grab Su Yu's head. However, on his blood-covered face, a pair of tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. A pair of eyes that were filled with a deep, cold glint reflected a cold light that could destroy the world. Chapter 2673. Suyu flicked his palm, and 3 flying needles flew out one after another. At such a close distance, an ordinary person would not be able to react in time. However, this early-stage peak roadmaster was not an ordinary person. He opened his mouth and shouted. A beam of yellow light shot out, deflecting the flying needle. But the second flying needle followed closely, piercing his forehead. He had no choice but to take a step back and switch from offense to defense, dodging the flying needle attack. But just as he dodged, the third flying needle pierced his forehead. This was the soul-destroying flying needle personally crafted by the charming empress of the Nine Nether. A single needle could kill a strong roadmaster. Ah! The man screamed in pain. His soul was severely injured, but he did not die immediately, because his cultivation had reached the peak of the early stage. He grabbed his forehead with his palm and sucked the flying needle out. But at that moment, the second flying needle shot out. Scram! How could a flying needle hurt him when he was on guard? He slid his shoulder lightly and avoided the flying needle. However, the strangest thing was that even though he had clearly dodged the flying needle, it still pierced his forehead, because the flying needle contained the space domain. It looked like he had dodged it, but it was just an illusion. 2 flying needles immediately froze most of his soul. His consciousness was thrown into chaos, and he attacked wildly in all directions. The third flying needle in Suyu's hand shot out. With a swoosh, the flying needle pierced the man's forehead the very next moment. That was because the last flying needle contained the time domain. 3 flying needles pierced the early-stage roadmaster's body without a doubt. His body gradually stopped struggling and finally lay motionless on the ground, completely dead. Suyu stood up slowly, looking a little tired as he examined the charming empress injuries. Her back had been shattered, and her injuries were not light. Suyu condensed a life domain in his palm to heal her. After half a cup of tea's time, the charming empress had mostly recovered. "Don't worry about me. Go help the clone," Suyu said. The latter immediately rushed over to help the clone kill the pursuers. Suyu replenished his mysterious path energy. After a moment, he heaved a sigh of relief. "I haven't felt this power in a long time." After thinking about it, Suyu grabbed the air and pulled out his thread of fate. The traces of the fracture had already disappeared. It meant that he had survived the crisis of life and death. "It's all thanks to Wen Shui." Suyu sighed. If it wasn't for her help, they might not have been able to survive this. Thinking of her, Suyu was secretly worried. I wonder if she and the Beast Slave King are safe. With that in mind, he casually grabbed at the air, trying to grasp Wen Shui's fate. However, his palm was empty. Suyu's heart thumped, and he tried to grab it again, but he still couldn't catch it. There is only one kind of destiny that cannot be grasped. That was the dead. Something had happened to Wen Shui. Suyu's heart thumped, and he immediately teleported forward. 2 hours later, he appeared in a patch of weeds, but all he saw was the unconscious Beast Slave King. "Wake up!" Suyu kicked him. Stimulated by the outside world, the Beast Slave King finally woke up. After a short period of confusion, he immediately exclaimed, "Ask Water! Where is Ask Water?" As Suyu inquired about the details, his face darkened. She actually disguised herself as me and lured the enemy away? Suyu felt as if his throat was blocked by something. He felt an indescribable discomfort and shock. Wen Shui was just a creature that he had unintentionally created. She could be used as a sacrifice at any time and was never valued. Why would she do this for Suyu? She could even give up her own life for him? Filled with complicated emotions, Suyu used all kinds of methods to investigate the surrounding situation. Finally, he locked onto a direction and sped off with the Beast Slave King. On a sparkling lakeside, a beautiful woman in green stood with her hands folded in front of her chest, bathing in the afterglow of the setting sun. Her long shadow quietly accompanied the lonely figure. She was like a stone statue, a fairy that had been frozen in the flow of time and space, standing there forever. Wen Shui, the Beast Slave King, let out a heart-wrenching cry. He pounced forward and hugged the figure in his arms. but all he hugged was a cold, devoid of warmth. The coldness was like a sharp sword, piercing deep into the beast slave king's heart. She twisted the last remaining gentleness, the last remaining beauty, the last remaining kindness in his heart into pieces. Before meeting Shui, he had never cared about good or evil, only his own preferences. But after meeting Shui for the first time, he wanted to be a good person. At least, in Shui's eyes, he was a good person. Now all of this was torn to shreds by the cold, sharp blade in his arms. No. The beast slave king cried bitterly. His cries reached the heavens, shattering the dark clouds. Torrential rain poured down, drenching the earth. But no matter how much the beast slave king cried, Shui remained in his arms peacefully and quietly. Those eyes could no longer be opened. Suyu was silent, but his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. He looked up at the sky, looking at the unceasing rain, his heart filled with sorrow. Was I wrong? Suyu muttered to himself. Perhaps he should not have created Ruo Shui in the first place. Her existence, her death, was destined to be a tragedy. If you were wrong, then what are Shui's gratitude, wishes, and expectations for the world? The beast slave king had long since calmed down. He lowered his head, his voice hoarse and penetrating. It's not you or Shui who was wrong. It's the world. On the back of the beast slave king, a black fog was visible to the naked eye, condensing into a ferocious beast face. Suyu felt that the face was somewhat familiar. Xiao. The beast slave king hugged Shui, his voice low. I will destroy you. With a roar, the beast slave king turned into black fog, heading straight for Biming City. Suyu extended his arm, stopping him. Don't go over. If you want Shui to see you again when she wakes up. Hearing this, the beast slave king's body trembled. You can revive Shui? The beast slave king held on to his last shred of hope. Suyu shook his head. At least not now, but there is still hope. If one day my 8 great domains reach Yuan level, I might be able to revive both her body and soul. If he were to forcefully revive her now, all he would get would be a puppet like Shui. Yuan level domain? The beast slave king stared at Suyu. He put down Shui and handed her to Suyu. Take good care of Shui. I will help you reach Yuan level. After saying this, he turned into black fog and left without waiting for Suyu to ask. Suyu looked at the ferocious face behind him, deep in thought. Finally, he looked at Shui, who was peacefully praying in his arms, and his heart ached. With a shake of his sleeves, a wave of life force entered Shui's body, making her immortal. Until one day, so you could make her open her eyes again. I will never create another life for the rest of my life, Suyu said in a low voice. Chapter 2674. His figure blurred as he turned into a cloud of green smoke and disappeared. 1 year later, at the border of Shiming City and Biming City, Suyu returned to this place. After a year of healing, the 9-colored energy in his body had been completely dissolved. His cultivation had been restored. Xiaohao, Emperor Xiaoyao. Suyu stared at a jade box in his palm. There were countless 9-colored energies lying quietly inside. It was different from the 9-colored liquid that had been washed with water. The energy Suyu forced out was purer, without any impurities. And the energy it contained was enormous. The ruler that was soaked in half a drop of the Emperor's blood exploded with power several times over. What would happen if I could digest the other half of the Emperor's blood? Suyu had successfully obtained the other half of the Emperor's blood. He needed to study it carefully. Its power was too great. He could not miss it. Speaking of the Emperor's blood, Suyu could not help but think of the 9-tailed fox's complete body, which was still in his hands. He did not know if he could extract the Emperor's blood from its body. As he pondered, Ada, Ah-Er, and Ah-San appeared. Lord Zua, you are finally here. Ada and the other two frowned. They had not completed the mission given by the Waning Moon Queen at Biming City. Lord, how should we report to her? The three of them understood the Waning Moon Queen's character. She was fair in rewards and punishments. If they did not complete the mission, they would be severely punished. I'm already prepared. Suyu took out a beautiful corpse. This was, of course, a corpse created by one thought to become real. It could only last for about a day. Ah, Lord, you, Ada said in shock. Suyu nodded. I secretly completed the hunt in a year. I can report to the queen now. Hearing this, the three of them were overjoyed. The only regret was that Zhuo Wei had killed Yanran alone. When it came to rewards, it was not their turn. You three, you have all contributed to our successful return, Suyu said. If the queen asks, I will say that the three of us worked together to kill her. I hope you will not say anything. The three of them were overjoyed. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for the promotion. The three of them were extremely grateful. Suyu was sharing the credit with them. How could they not be grateful? Not long after many years, the group finally returned to Biming City. As soon as they returned, the waning moon empress summoned them. The four of you are indeed capable subordinates of mine. Very well done. The waning moon empress simply checked Yanran's body and ordered people to take care of it. His thoughts were obviously not on Yanran. You're in North Ming City. Do you know what happened? The waning moon empress frowned. He did not know if he should be happy or worried. In just a short 2 to 3 years, Northern Ming City had fallen from being the #1 city in the south to becoming a wasteland. Not only was Biming City devastated, but the Great Emperor Hall was also destroyed twice. The forces in the entire territory were being taken away by the unknown forces at an alarming rate. Now, the overall strength of the Northern Bright City had fallen to a level similar to that of the Western Bright City. The waning moon empress didn't expect such a huge change. Ada spoke in a low voice. According to our understanding, Xiaohao offended someone, and that's why he's in such a state. Alone? The waning moon empress took a deep breath. What kind of person could turn Northern Ming City into such a mess? If they could recruit such a person for their own use, why would they worry about not succeeding? The waning moon empress pondered. The world is really unpredictable. The battle for the Time Master is about to begin, but Northern Ming City has suffered such a huge change. But this is a good thing. She smiled. It's not a good thing for Northern Ming City to be too strong or too weak. The current Northern Ming City is just right. Her black dress fluttered, and her eyes regained their elegance. The waning moon empress was certain, if I'm not wrong, the one who has been secretly recruiting people should be Eastern Ming City. Not only did they take advantage of Northern Ming City's internal strife to buy experts, but they also poached many forces from my Western Bright City. She never thought it would be Southern Ming City. In her eyes, Southern Ming City wasn't even worth mentioning. Only the mindful emperor of Eastern Ming City was wise, calm, and good at forbearance. Perhaps he was the only one who could do such a far-sighted thing. The waning moon empress was excited. Very good. The situation is clear. When the war begins, it will be the beginning of my ascension to the Time Master's throne. She only calmed down after a while. You've all done well. Ada, the three of you can go and receive your rewards. Zhuo Wei, stay behind. Yes. The three of them left one after another, leaving only Suyu and the waning moon empress. Her expression softened, and she threw herself into Suyu's embrace. Zhuo Wei, I've made you suffer. Suyu shook his head. It's okay, it's what I should do. He thought to himself. The relationship between the waning moon empress and Zhuo Wei was really extraordinary. All these years, you've been helping me spy beside the Star Rain Empress. We should have been happy together, the waning moon empress said softly. Didn't I say that your business is my business? So, why should we separate ourselves? Suyu asked. He was still guessing the relationship between the two of them. Do you remember when you want to kill Yanran? I said that when you came back, I would give you everything you want. Suyu certainly remembered. He had come back for this. He felt that the thing the waning moon empress was talking about was not ordinary. What do you want to give me? Suyu smiled. The waning moon empress snorted. You know the answer. Her finger drew circles on Suyu's chest. Suyu's heart skipped a beat. Could the waning moon empress be talking about herself? It was difficult for him to accept having sex with such a woman. Let's go, I'll show you. I'm almost there. The waning moon empress let go of her finger and pulled Suyu to her bedroom. She pointed at her bed. A well-hidden space fluctuation appeared. The two of them stepped into the fluctuation and were transported to an extremely dark place. The place was bone-chilling and the scene was like an underground altar. In the center of the altar, there was a huge block of ice. There was a figure frozen inside. The figure had been dead for an unknown number of years, but the body was intact. The strangest thing was that there was an ancient oil lamp on top of the figure's head. The oil lamp was extinguished, and it was constantly spinning. Seeing the oil lamp, Su Yu's pupils shrank. "The holy mortal body," he exclaimed in surprise. The waning moon empress smiled faintly. "Haha, you've finally gotten your wish. Have you seen it?" It turned out that what Zhuo Wei wanted to know was the waning moon empress's biggest secret. Back then, in the territory I ruled, I dug up a first-grade 9 Serenities crystal and cut out a dead holy mortal body, the waning moon empress recalled. After learning of the situation, the waning moon empress took the body of the holy mortal body away. She killed everyone who knew about it. Chapter 2675. Su Yu was secretly surprised. He knew that, except for the Star Rain Empress, none of the other descendants of the Time Master were simple. The mindful emperor had secretly cultivated his strength. The Xiaohao emperor had even found a fragment of Emperor Xiaoyao's clone. The waning moon empress surprised Su Yu the most. She had obtained the body of the holy mortal body. Calming himself down, he looked at the unbroken eyes and said, "Have you not studied him all these years?" The waning moon empress shook her head slightly. "I have, but not thoroughly. The sacred mortal body is really too mysterious. Just that oil lamp alone is unimaginable." She had been studying it all these years, but she had never made any progress. After all, the holy mortal body was the only existence comparable to the stone fetus emperor. How difficult would it be to study it thoroughly? But after many years of trying, I have been able to stimulate some of its power, the waning moon empress said mysteriously. "Oh." Su Yu pretended to be curious. The waning moon empress pointed to the oil lamp. "See, if I light that oil lamp, I can stimulate the power of the holy mortal body from this corpse." The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. Su Yu's heart skipped a beat. Light the oil lamp? The flame of Su Yu's current oil lamp was too weak and almost extinguished, but he had never found a way to reignite it. The waning moon empress had succeeded? It was unimaginable. "How do I light it?" Su Yu asked. The waning moon empress smiled mysteriously. "It's a secret." Su Yu's heart surged with murderous intent. Should he capture her alive now and search her memories? However, the waning moon empress changed her tone. "But, of course, it is not a secret to you." She clapped her hands, and a woman with a full beard and lipstick walked out of the dark basement. She was gorgeously dressed. Seeing her, Su Yu almost shouted out loud, "Lady Poison Fate?" Lady Poison Fate, the owner of the East Pole Market, a 7-star civilization. Su Yu had almost been taken back by Lady Poison Fate as a concubine. This woman did not die in the destruction of the Outer Realm and successfully came to the dream-broken boundary of an 8-star civilization. Not only that, but she had also become the Waning Moon Empress's subordinate. It was with this person's help that I was able to successfully study the secret of the holy mortal body lamp. The Waning Moon Empress admired Lady Poison Fate. Su Yu suddenly remembered. He and Madame Poison had once been threatened by the divine light of annihilation. Lu Zhu had saved the two of them. At the same time, he had intentionally protected Madame Poison Fate from being killed by him. Could it be that Lu Zhu already knew that Madame Poison Life would guide him to light the oil lamp again? "Yo, isn't this the Empress? Why did you bring a man? Are you afraid that I'll be lonely?" Madame Poison twisted her waist. He purposely lowered his voice and spoke like a woman. Su Yu felt a chill run down his spine. As the saying goes, a dog can't stop itself from eating shit. Madame Poison Fate was definitely one of them. After so many years, he was still the same. "Zhuolang is one of my people. Show some respect." The Waning Moon Queen was slightly displeased. Only then did Madame Poison stop teasing her. "Then, does the Empress have any instructions for you?" "Okay, show me how to light an oil lamp." Madame Poison immediately revealed a wronged expression and said coquettishly, "Empress, you're so bad. You want me to get hurt again?" Even the Waning Moon Empress, who was a woman, felt her veins bulging. "Hurry up." At her urging, Madame Poison Life shyly and reluctantly made a small cut on her wrist. Suddenly, a trace of blood flowed out. However, as a human, her blood was black. "Watch carefully." She took out a drop of blood and flicked it onto the oil lamp. Suddenly, the extinguished oil lamp flickered with a faint spark. If there had been more blood, it would have been able to ignite the lamp. Her blood is not ordinary blood, so you could only test it this way. Fortunately, the Waning Moon Queen really trusted Zway. Without hiding anything, she said, "This guy entered the way with poison. Once, he accidentally consumed a poisonous plant that had been stained by the Emperor's blood. As a result, his temperament changed greatly. His body was still that of a man, but his temperament became that of a woman. Not only that, but a trace of the Emperor's blood still remains in his body. And it was precisely a trace of the Emperor's blood that could light that oil lamp." Hearing this, Su Yu's heart thumped. The secret to reigniting the holy body's oil lamp was the Emperor's blood. Su Yu had never dreamed that the key to reigniting the oil lamp was the Emperor's blood. After all, it was the Buddha of 10,000 lamps who had helped him reignite the oil lamp for the first time. It was not the Emperor's blood, but the truth was right in front of him. Su Yu was suddenly excited. He had half a drop of the Emperor's blood in his hands. Wouldn't it be able to strengthen the flame and reignite the holy body? However, the oil lamp consumes a lot of the Emperor's blood, the Waning Moon Queen said helplessly. A drop of the Emperor's blood can't even sustain the oil lamp for half a day. And even if all the Emperor's blood in Madame Du Ming's body was drained, there would be less than a drop. Hearing this, Su Yu's excited heart quickly calmed down. He only had half a drop at the moment, which meant that he could only sustain the holy body for 4 hours. It seemed that he needed to find a way to examine the remains of the nine-tailed fox. "Zway, is there anything else you want to ask?" The Waning Moon Queen said softly. "If not, let's spend the night together." She breathed out, her eyes blurred. "I haven't been touched by Zway for a long time." Hearing this, Madame Du Ming had goosebumps. "I'm shy." He covered his face with his palms, but his eyes peeked out. "Get lost." The Waning Moon Queen snorted angrily, then turned and took Su Yu back to the palace. As soon as she returned, she pushed Su Yu onto the bed. She passionately undid his clothes. Su Yu hurriedly said, "Queen, wait a moment. I have a surprise for you." The Waning Moon Queen's hands did not stop. She asked, "What surprise?" Su Yu wiped his face with his palm, revealing his true face. "Look, The Waning Moon Queen immediately let out a scream. "Who are you?" She instinctively stepped back, clutching her chest as she stared at Su Yu in shock. It was her Zway a moment ago. How did he become a stranger in the blink of an eye? "Thank you, Queen, for telling me so many secrets. Goodbye." Su Yu immediately left. How could the Waning Moon Queen allow him to leave? "What did you do to my Zway?" The Waning Moon Queen immediately used the time realm. Freeze. She had thought that she could easily freeze Su Yu. However, to the Waning Moon Queen's surprise, Su Yu was not restricted by the time realm at all. "Are you also proficient in the time realm?" The Waning Moon Queen asked in disbelief. However, seeing that Su Yu was about to steal it, a hint of madness flashed in her eyes. "What did you do to my Zway?" She took out a lion-shaped seal from her chest. Chapter 2676. She crushed the lion seal in her hand. A subtle fluctuation of the time realm surrounded her body like a defensive belt. This item was used for defense and could not attack the enemy, except for special occasions. The crazed Waning Moon Queen slapped her palm toward the top of her head. It posed a great threat to his life. The fluctuation of the time realm seemed to sense it and immediately radiated outward. Suddenly, all the space around her was frozen in time. Even Su Yu himself was frozen in place. His time realm could not be used in the face of the time freeze. Yuan level time realm. Only the Waning Moon Queen could move freely. Her figure was as fast as a swan as she arrived in front of Su Yu and grabbed his neck. "Tell me, where's my husband?" she said fiercely. At that moment, the effect of the time freeze ended. Su Yu could finally move again, but he had been subdued. "He is in hell." Suyu spat out a few words and suddenly shot out a flying needle from his mouth. The waning moon queen was caught off guard and hurriedly dodged. Taking advantage of the split second, Suyu used the space realm to break himself down into countless particles and disappeared without a trace. There's a space realm? The waning moon queen's eyes flashed with shock. Are you the successor of the ancient god Jiolong? That was the only explanation for everything. Of course, no one would respond to him. Suyu had already taken the opportunity to leave the queen's hall. He changed his appearance in a corner and calmly left Shiming City. Soon, Shiming City was sealed off and all suspicious people were searched. At the same time, the Holy City, the former lair of the Holy Demon. On top of the collapsed ruins stood a young man with a resolute expression. Raindrops fell, drenching his whole body. So that person was here before, the young man murmured. If Suyu was here, he would definitely recognize him. The young man in front of him was the baby cut out of the Nine Serenities crystal. Later, in the Nine Serenities world, after a sacrifice, he suddenly grew up. He named himself Chu. He had severed his relationship with Suyu. He had actually sensed the scent left behind by Suyu. Drip! Suddenly, the soil behind him squirmed. An old man covered in eyes slowly emerged from the ground. He was the sect master of the Greater One sect. His true identity was a mysterious creature that was cut out from the Netherworld crystal by the real headmaster. Later, he killed the headmaster and pretended to be the headmaster to guard the Greater One sect for many years. It wasn't until the Netherworld realm was dug out that his true identity was revealed. How is it? Chu asked without turning his head. The multi-eyed elder shook his head slowly. The holy devil has indeed betrayed the ancient god of the Netherworld and us. It has already stolen the ancient god's good fortune and become the master of the heavenly law. Chu clenched his fists. Traitor! The multi-eyed elder said hoarsely. There's no point in pursuing this matter now. What we should worry about is how to bring ancient god Nine Nether back to the earth. Before ancient god Nine Nether perished, he transformed his energy into the 4 great relics. He handed it over to the 4 protectors. If one day they could find the successor of ancient god Nine Nether and infuse the legacy into the successor's body, then a new ancient god of the Netherworld would be born anew. Find the holy demon, kill him, and retrieve the relic, Chu said slowly. The multi-eyed old man said hoarsely, Just the 2 of us? Chu was silent for a long time before sighing softly. Only by finding my sister and gathering the 3 protectors will we have a chance of killing the traitor. Haha, are you still unwilling to meet Suyu? Chu had a complicated look on his face as he sighed. I just don't want to implicate him. But now, his sister, the female corpse with the heavenly book characters on her body, was still in Suyu's hands. He could only go find Suyu. Ha! After all, he is the successor of ancient god Nine Dragon. He's on our side. Fine, I'll go give him a greeting gift. The conversation between the 2 was still lingering in the air. In the rain, there was no one to talk anymore. Time passed in a flash. After many days, Suyu finally returned to Nanming City. At this moment, in the Emperor's Great Hall, in a world that had its own space, thousands of underworld lords were leisurely cultivating and chatting among themselves. So, Brother Li has also joined Empress Starrain. Ha! Isn't Brother Zhao the same? A fine bird chooses a good tree to nest in. Empress Starrain's grace is vast, and we should repay her kindness. As they were talking, Empress Starrain walked in. Everyone immediately bowed respectfully. Greetings, Empress. Gazing at the thousands of underworld lords, Empress Starrain's heart was agitated, and she sighed with emotion. Not long ago, she didn't even dare to dream of having thousands of masters around her. If she had 100 of them, she would have laughed even in her dreams. But now, everything had changed drastically, and she didn't know what to do. Perhaps my greatest luck was getting to know my brother, Empress Starrain murmured. After getting to know Suyu, everything in her life had started to become positive and unimaginable changes had taken place. Empress, please give us your orders. Empress Starrain said, I don't have any orders for now. Just focus on training. When the time is right, I will summon you. She followed Su Yu's instructions and hid the strong men she had summoned in secret. She couldn't let outsiders know. As a result, Nanming City was still the weakest in the eyes of outsiders. Empress, I am Ing Quan, and I am willing to serve you. A confident youth with a bull's horn stepped forward and bowed. Empress Star Rain furrowed her brows slightly. I will wait for Mr. Su to come back and help me choose my guards. Please wait patiently. Only a few of her former 10 guards were left. They needed to be replenished. But Empress Star Rain didn't have the talent to jump out at others, so she had to wait for Su Yu to come back and make the decision. Ing Quan was still smiling. I'm not talented, but I was once an advisor under the Waning Moon Empress. I can help you with many things. Now that Mr. Su is not here, I might be able to share your burden. His intention was to replace Su Yu. Empress Star Rain was disgusted. This person was extremely ambitious, and he didn't just want the position of an advisor. He wanted her as well. During their first meeting, Empress Star Rain had already noticed the obscure look in his eyes. But because of his special status, Empress Star Rain had tolerated him. This was because half of the 300 masters who had surrendered from Shiming City were led by Ing Quan. Therefore, she couldn't afford to offend Ing Quan unless it was absolutely necessary. Not for the time being. Thank you, Mr. Ing Quan. Empress Star Rain replied politely. You can continue to rest. After she spoke, she left the space. Ing Quan stood up and looked at Empress Star Rain's beautiful back. He was stunned. Hee, big brothering. Do you really want to get your hands on Empress Star Rain? A crafty-looking confidant behind him asked with a smile.